adolescents, they're hurting, oh God. But Father, we ask and pray right now that you blow a divine peace and comfort, Lord God, into our community, Lord. Father, the moral injury is escalating, oh God, and we recognize that only you can impart the wisdom, the favor, Lord God, that we can galvanize and coalesce, Father, our ideas, our passions, our gifts, and our commitment, God, to help, Father, these stress fractures that are all over every ward in our community, but especially, God, in this third ward. Father, right now we lift up, Father, potentially 30,000 JobCore students, God, that, Father, in the blink of a magic pen, God, will be displaced from housing and moderate earnings, educational accreditation, God. Father, we thank you, God, that you hear us, God, but we ask you to move right now with the favor, God. Give us profound favor, God, with the hearts of the union officials for our local law enforcement, God. Father, work overtime, Lord God, on the legislators, God, those that we have voted into office. But God, in the midst of you working on them, God, work in us. Father, let us have a passion, God, and cry out, not just for these 4 murders, but let us cry out with anger, Lord God, and concern for every single murder in our community, God. Father, help us energize the leaders that have came tonight to sacrifice their time, to sacrifice their gifts, potentially sacrifice their careers, God, because they're standing up simply looking for direction, correction, inspiration, and healing, Lord. Father, we thank you in advance for how you're going to work. In Jesus' name, and all of God's people said, amen. Let's receive Commissioner Womack. Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.
Let's give it up for Reverend Jerry Bishop once more. And he did have a prior engagement that started exactly at the same time. And I told him we can't stop this, and I believe in freedom of religion and even your right not to believe, but I'm a believer, and I don't start nothing without having God in it. Let's give it up for Pastor Jerry Bishop again. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves with a short introduction. We'll say your name and your profession or whatever organization you're representing, and we'll start with Maurice Barnes here, and then pass the mic down until it gets to Jamar.
Good evening. My name is Maurice Barnes. I'm a former police officer. I'm here today to share the information that I had based on the manual of training when I was a police officer and testifying in 1982 in Kalamazoo in federal court under Richard Insulin and his directive on training that would be mandatory with Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Carlton T. Mears II, Esquire. I am the Special Advisor for Public Safety at NAACP Greater Grand Rapids Branch. I'm also a national expert on policing reform and community development and safety. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Brown. I'm a community organizer with the Grand Rapids African American Community Task Force. I'm also the president of Grand Rapids Media Initiative and Film Incubator, and a producer with Grandstand Pictures of the upcoming film, A City Within the City, the Black Freedom Struggle in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Good evening, Grand Rapids. My name is Erica Cage. I am the proud cousin of Samuel Sterling. I am an activist here with many different organizations, and that's it.
He's also the cousin of Breonna Taylor. Let's give it up for Erica Cage.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamar Sterling, community youth activist and older cousin of Samuel Dejan Cornelius Sterling.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ven Johnson. I am president of Ven Johnson Law PLC in Detroit, Flint, and Kalamazoo, Michigan. Proud to represent the Loyola family, the Cage Sterling family, and the family of Becky Wilbert and Riley Dogget. in those 3 cases of my office here tonight is Chris Desmond, and our paralegal, I think I see Courtney Tucker Saffron out there. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Israel Siku. I'm a pastor, and I am an activist in the community. I organize and I stand up and fight for justice for every single soul that lives on earth. Thank you.
I'm Clee Jackson. I serve as the president of the Greater Grand Rapids branch of the NAACP, as well as the regional director for the NAACP Michigan State Conference.
Good evening. My name is Eric Brown. I'm privileged to be the 8th president and CEO of the Urban League of West Michigan, as well as proud of being a lifelong resident of Grand Rapids, Michigan as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ivan Diaz. I'm an activist, a former Kent County commissioner, and currently a candidate for the Michigan State Senate.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allie Bates, also known as Allie the Activist. I'm an activist, organizer, content creator from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo. I'm the co-chair of the Grand Rapids Alliance. We demand community control of the police, and we work closely with families of police violence.
Hello, I'm Governor Slugwell. I'm president of Grand Rapids Hip Hop Coalition, co-founder of GRMI Phi, president of Grandstand Pictures, along with my partner Rodney Brown, also producer on the film A City Within a City, the Black Freedom Struggle of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Good evening. I'm Gail Harvey. I am with the Office of OPA, and I handle community-informed training.
I'm going to have the family introduce themselves last because we have something to say once they do.
Good evening. I am Phyllis Loudermill Watson Hodges, and I am HERCO, and I'm also a proud partner of JobCore.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Sterling. I'm the father of Samuel Daydon Sterling. Samuel Daydon Sterling. Thank everybody for coming out.
I'm Becky Wilbert, the mother of Riley Dogget.
I'm Andrika Cage, and I am Samuel Sterling, Dejan Sterling, mother.
At this time, for a brief second, could we have the parents please stand up once again? Let's give it up, standing ovation for this family, because they had to lose their sons before this community finally united. Everybody on your feet. Thank you. Thank you, family. They have endured a loss that every time I talk about this issue, and me, Erica, Allie, NAACP, and others, we were talking about it. Some of us way before George Floyd, a lot of us right on point. Our friend John sitting up here in the front with us. Before we had these tragedies in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and there still was no movement. And a lot of times we were working in different silos and we weren't working together, but we were all working hard. And like I said, we have to give it up to these families because they had to actually lose a child on these streets of Grand Rapids and Kent County before we finally realized we not only have to unite amongst leaders, nonprofits, activists, elected officials, we have to unite you, the community, if we're going to get some change. So let's give it up for these families once again. I want to thank our school board members who have come here to listen and find out what's going on in their community. And a lot of our school board members out here to find out what's happening to JobCore and what's happening with our children out here. Could our school board members please stand up so we could give them an applause for being here? Mr. Rodriguez, I see you. I also believe we have a city commissioner in the house. If he's still here, could he stand up? Let's give it up for Marshall Kilgore for coming out to hear the people and what's going on. With no further ado, we're going to jump into our state of emergency town hall meeting. Where do we go from here? Social justice. And we also have a segment where we'll get a chance to hear from the families. And I really want to thank Andrika Cage, Becky Dogget, Michael Sterling, and Andrika has been, I mean, when she comes someplace, I mean, we were down there with the Patrick Lyoya, and Andrika really came out, and we caught something that we put on Facebook that had so many views because she really brought it home. That she lost a child and she out here because she don't want your child to be next. Give it up for Andrika once again. So as we start with our first question of the night, we're gonna start off with Vin Johnson telling you about this case and where it stands, and then we're gonna jump into some questions for our panelists.
Thank you, Commissioner. I apologize for my voice tonight, but no way I was staying home to nurse a sore voice instead of being here with y'all on such an important night. You all have read and you've seen the atrocities that have happened, not just on the streets, but are now happening in our courts. So let's talk about the three that I'm here to discuss tonight. There are many more, I might add, many more. Real quick, during the George Floyd, I know Allie, the activist, knows all about this. I have a client, Sean Hart, who the Grand Rapids police officer shot him with a munition right in the chest. And the court threw the case out of court saying it was not excessive force, even though in a twist of fate, the city of Grand Rapids literally disciplined the cop for doing that, and they called it excessive force. And my trial judge threw that out of court. So I know it feels like this is new, y'all. It's not. And I want to give a shout out to Chris Desmond behind me. Chris Desmond of our office is one of the most successful appellate lawyers. So I do the stuff in trial, and then when whoever wins or loses, they appeal. Chris has won more cases in civil rights in favor of victims, but especially of police misconduct, than any lawyer that I've ever met, and I want to give a shout out to Chris Desmond, please. That Sean Hart case now is coming back to trial. It'll be here in downtown Grand Rapids because the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the trial judge and said, no, you need to go to trial. So there's your start. Folks, I've been doing this. This is just shy of my 40th year of practice. I've been doing this type of law for over 30, and pretty much every day. The old game they played, you all know, if you died at the hands of an officer, it didn't matter what they did to you and where they did it. They would never be charged. Let me say that again. It didn't matter what they did to you, how they did it to you, and even if you did nothing wrong, the officer would never be charged. And then came a wave, and somebody said, one of the activists, that, John, where are you? I can't quote what you told me tonight on how we got to walk. John, what did you tell me? We build the road by walking it. This road, y'all have been building along with all of us and all these folks for decades. We wouldn't be here but for that road. So thank you, John. So the old game was don't charge them at all criminally. Two different systems, guys. Criminal for jail time. Civil, they say it's for money. It's not just for money, much like criminal. It's for justice. It's for justice. Two different systems, same result. It's to show people that when you injure and kill somebody,
and you broke the law, you are not above the law. You can be held responsible. So the new game is, y'all, ever since George Floyd, let's be honest, there was a couple more before then. But George Floyd, because of cameras and because of video, so now you charge him, and then we let the system do its thing. And the problem that you have with the system do its thing is you now have police groups that I hope you all were watching, so that when I walked through the Loyola line to get into trial each day, that they could say as many nice things to you as they did to me. And all I was there was a citizen to be with my people and my clients. I wasn't a lawyer in that case. But that's what we're up against. And I tell you what else they don't tell you about. Those folks donate money. Those folks pay for those lawyers. Those are not public defendant lawyers, y'all. Those are some of the best in what they do. The police unions pay for them, and then some of the worst cases the police union doesn't pay for, they got a group backed by individual donors that pays for those lawyers. Okay? This has been going on for years, y'all. But now they're charging them, and welcome to watching how these cases progress. And when I hear people say, and I'm a civil lawyer, not a criminal lawyer, but when I hear people say to you all and me and us that this is just another case, this is how all cases go, can I say one bad word? It's bullshit. That's a legal term. That is a legal term. That is complete and utter bullshit. And I know you all know better. Nobody before trial gets 3 and 4 appeals that they wait for the appellate courts to rule and delay the case. In the Patrick Lyoya case, 3 years since that young man's death. Over. I haven't taken a single deposition because they've been playing games in the criminal case, and my judge, who I love, won't let us do anything until that's done. Welcome to how they play the game. So they are well organized. It's time that we are too. Very briefly, sorry, lawyer blah, blah, blah. Criminal case is over. Criminal case is over. Once Becker decided not to retry, it's his call. Y'all are gonna ask me, great question, but then couldn't Dana Nessel do it? Yep. Do you think she's going to? Nope. I can't get Dana Nessel to, who I know, and I could call if I wanted to. I sent her a letter from on behalf of Riley Dogget. I can't even get a call back about her taking over that investigation because they won't charge ever. So that's the old game still being employed on Riley Dogget's case. On Loyola, all these things could happen, and you're all going to ask, and you're going to have great questions. Answer, it ain't gonna. It ain't gonna. Ain't nobody from the feds coming in. Dana Nessel ain't coming in. It's over. What they have is what the 99% of my clients for the last 30-some years have. They got the civil case, and that's it. So please, 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 support us and watch us on the civil case. Make that justice for all, because that's all there's ever going to be for the Loyola family. That's Loyola. Talk about now Sterling, Samuel Sterling's case. They charged the guy. You all know why they did. My family, you all know why they did. Because the major from Michigan State Police made him. Okay? He, on the day of that incident, it was so clear what he saw in that videotape. He not only laid him off, what is it called? Administrative leave. Normally they put him on administrative leave, like this Shure guy from Loyola. They put him on leave, all right, but they paid him. Let me say that again. Patrick Lyoya's murderer was paid by Grand Rapids. Excuse me. No. Patrick Lyoya's murderer was paid. They didn't. They continued to pay him. Okay? And then when he got charged by Becker, the county employee, That's when they fired him, and how they fired him is they gave him full benefits, so he retired. A guy that was charged with second-degree murder. Now we're going to Samuel Sterling. That man was laid off on the day without pay, like he should have been. Then he was charged by who? His co-employees from the state of Michigan, the Attorney General's office. So we're in court, right? We're in court in Kentwood, and then we get bound over here in circuit, and they file this piece of paper saying, this case should be in federal court because he's on a federal task force. Who's his employer? You and me. He's a Michigan State Police trooper. Who pays for that car that he used against my client, Samuel Sterling? State of Michigan. Do you hear me? So the federal judge makes the call. This is now a federal case. Anybody want to guess who the federal judge was appointed by? How'd you know? Trump round one, baby. Now, to Judge Jarbo's credit, I know Judge Jarbo. She's a really smart lady, and she's also on our civil case. So I mean no disrespect. But what happened in that case after it was now in federal court, they held what's called an evidentiary hearing. Never happens in criminal cases. After the end of that evidentiary hearing, she ruled that the state of Michigan, because the Attorney General's office still ran that prosecution, y'all, said that they did not produce enough evidence. Because it ain't trial, baby. So she ruled that there was not enough evidence and that she was bound by the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution and so forth, and that's her ruling. So that criminal case currently is dismissed and over. The next question is will Dana Nessel, the Attorney General's office, will they appeal? Now, okay, I'm not going on there. That's not been done yet. So for once, the lawyer's going to say nothing, okay? But we'll watch, won't we all? We're going to watch, aren't we all? Thank you. We're going to watch together. In the Samuel Sterling case, 2 civil cases. One in federal court in front of Judge Jarbo for excessive force. Same judge that threw that case out on excessive force in criminal. How's that going to go? The other case is in the State Court of Claims, it's called, here in Michigan. And the state of Michigan is claiming it's not their car, so you can't sue me. Hold on. The state of Michigan is claiming that. Guess who charged Keeley? State of Michigan. And guess what the lawyer for the state of Michigan told the judge? It was a state car. Are you all hearing me? This is what's going on in 2 different courts. In your state. In our state. So we're all going to sit back and watch. But what I'm going to tell you is this. If this criminal action takes the same fate as Patrick Lyoya, the only justice for all of us, but more importantly, for my family, Cage Sterling family, will be the civil case. I need you all on board watching us and paying attention to that, please. Will you do that? Commissioner, I lied, said 5 minutes, never give a lawyer a microphone. Dogget, not going to be charged ever by anybody, ever. Okay? Straight up, Becky knows this. She's not getting, she's written, I've written, ain't happening. Okay? So the one and only way of justice for that family is through the civil case. We're not going to be quiet. I know you all can tell that by now, not even with a hoarse voice. We're not going to be quiet. Will you all help me to help this family in the civil case? The old way, they got caught. No charges. This is the new way. The new way is to charge, and then hopefully people just won't pay attention. Y'all paying attention, I know you are. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Van Johnson once again, coming all the way from Detroit. Our first question for tonight. Panelists, please raise your hand if, after you hear the question, if it's something you like to answer for this audience. Why do you believe the trial of Officer Shore ended in a mistrial? Is there anyone who would like to take that?
Again, everybody, I am Erica Cage, Samuel Sterling's cousin, Breonna Taylor cousin, activist here. Allie, the activist, and I, as well as Commissioner Womack, as he said, have been very active since the beginning. And I can tell you, before any of these cases even started, before any of these lives were lost, activists such as Allie and myself were going to jail because we told the city commission, if you don't get control of Grand Rapids Police, this is gonna happen here. So when you ask the question of why these officers are getting mistrials, it's because it's really easy to ignore a civilian. It's really easy to cover up a mistake that you were already forewarned about by using the power that you have and the connections that you have. I'm so grateful that Van Johnson said to watch. And I'm so grateful that you all were like, oh yeah, we'll watch. But I need you to do. Faith without work is dead. I understand that many of us up here, in some way or capacity, have worked within the system or, you know, outside of the system. But as Commissioner Womack said, we need to work together because they're not hearing us. They don't care because it's not personal to them. For us, it's personal. It is personal. As my cousin says, every time she's able to get in a camera or on a phone or on a mic, this could have been your son. This could have been your daughter. This could have been your cousin. The simple fact of the matter is the reason why it was a mistrial is because we weren't taking it personal. There were only a scattering of us at the Patrick Lyoya trial. There were only a scattering of us with the case with Samuel. We have asked numerous times for us as a city to come out and support. We need your support. It's really easy to say, yeah, we'll come out, we'll do that. But I want y'all to know something that a lot of people won't tell you. I'm gonna tell you because I'm very blunt. Anybody who knows me knows that. Activists have spent more time behind bars than these murderers have.
Amen.
Again, I'll say that. Activists have spent more time behind bars than these murderers have. I've never murdered nobody. Ali has never murdered anyone. Kai has never murdered anyone. But in total, we've spent over 2.5 months behind bars. Y'all not hearing me. These people are working inside a system that covers them. It supports them. And so I'm begging you personally to support us because we need you.
Thank you. Israel Suku. Let's try to keep within 2 to 3 minutes. You were right on time, though.
I strongly believe that color play a factor in this trial. It was nothing about color. Like I said, and I will always say it, if you reverse the role, that it was Patrick who had shot the police, I don't think that jury could take 3 days to deliberate. By now, if we have to switch, Patrick would be already in jail, maybe he could have life in jail. But because he was a black man from Africa with accent, and they present him like a thug, and they present the officer like an angel, and you look the jury, what do you think was going to happen? It was nothing about color. Let's save the skin of the white man and nail the black man. If the jury was, I can understand maybe mixed jury, I believe we could have a strong outcome where this murder was going to be in jail. But when you look at the jury, all white, I felt like it was in 1957, where all the white jury found the cops not guilty. So, for me, Commissioner, I will tell you exactly that it was about the color. Let's save the white man and nail the black man. Thank you.
We'll give it up to Suku for his opinion, and we're going to move on to NAACP, Mr. Cleve Jackson.
What I'll
3
say
minutes.
is, I'll be real brief, and I agree with you, brother. It was, let's call it what it is, it was racism. Let's call it what it is. It was racism, and it was about national origin as well. That is the fact, and it was about jury selection. I see my brother Paul Mayhew in the audience. He has been fighting this fight for decades in terms of jury selection. And how did you even think that you could get a guilty when you had one of the jurors on the jury selection pool who was either currently married to a police officer or an ex-police officer? There was no way in the world that you were going to get a guilty verdict based on that. So we have to call it what it is. So I'm hopeful tonight, Brother Womack, is that we hear from you all and we actually talk about actionable steps, because there are some things that we can actually do to do that. Economic boycott locally, we can do that. We can ask for subpoena and investigatory powers be added to the Civilian Oversight Board. That's what we can do. We can also ask that a review of all of the policies. We have been in this struggle for years when we passed the 12-point plan, and by the way, one of the points in that plan was for them to do a traffic stop study. We need a new traffic stop study. That's what we need. We also not only need to put policy in place, what we need to make sure that those policies have enforcement and oversight. And it needs to be reported annually to community.
Yes, it does.
All of these officers, I can guarantee you, I don't know, Attorney Johnson, if this was ever, but we're going to pull from an NAACP perspective. We're going to do a FOIA on all of the internal affairs complaints that have been filed against this ex-officer. Because I guarantee you that there probably have been a number. Because see, those are the things that we see behind the scenes that you all never get to see. These families have been very public. Horrendous murders. And we all have to be concerned. And I'm going to tell you why. Because a precedence has just been set. It has just been set that is okay for law enforcement to kill us like an animal and to shoot us in the back of the head as we're running away or we pose no danger. It's a precedence that has been set. And we all have to be conscious. And let me say this as well. And it doesn't matter about our race. All of us are on the chopping block. I'm not saying this for you to be paranoid or to be scared. but that is the reality. That's the reality. That's the reality. And I'll say this, one last thing. All politics are local. And voting matters. So pay attention. We talked about, and I'll say it, if nobody else can say it up here, with respect to the Attorney General's office. She failed us. She failed us. And we have to remember, and I'll talk to Dana, I'll take a call, I got her number, I put those same calls in. She has not returned one call, but she's coming our way because she's running for governor. Okay? So all of these politicians that are in office right now, when you see these tremendous and horrible and horrific things happening, I hope you all are keeping receipts. When they come up for re-election, I'm talking about the school board, I'm talking about city commission, and I'll say it because I can. I'm talking about county commission, I'm talking about townships. I'm talking about at the federal level as well. So when they all come to us, because they will at some point, for our voice and our vote, I hope you remember where they stood in this time.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We're about to hear from Eric Brown, president of the Urban League.
So real quick for time, I agree with everything that the two former folks had basically said. I think jury selection was a big part of it, but I also would add, and somebody said it in the crowd, I also add the person that prosecuted, I think, was a mistake. Nothing against him as a person, but as a position, how would you prosecute something that you work with on a daily basis? That a system, to what Vin was talking about earlier, about how the system works. I think that was a mistake in the case. Jury selection, and I wish that Nesso had took it over from the beginning. She made her choice, and we have to make our choice when that time comes.
We will now hear from former Kent County Commissioner Ivan Diaz.
Thanks, Rob. I agree with basically everything the panelists have said, but I really want to focus for a few minutes, on what Clee said. One of the things that we've heard time and time again from these cases is they should have just listened to the police officer. They should have just followed directions. Samuel, Riley, Patrick, George, Brianna, none of them got violent with the police. None of them. It is illegal in Michigan. The death penalty is illegal in our state, except for if you're a law enforcement officer. So what that means is the state is not allowed to sentence somebody to death, but we're still letting police officers and other law enforcement officers become judge, jury, and executioner. I was out here in these streets years ago after the George Floyd murder. I got elected to the Kent County Board of Commissioners at the end of 2022 for a 2-year term. There's 21 county commissioners representing Kent County. During that time, both Riley and Samuel were killed. Guess how many of those 21 commissioners spoke up about it? One, me.
Don't forget your brother.
Oh, well, Robert, to his credit, Robert wasn't on the board at the time, but I'm sure that if he was.
I was on the board when the Patrick Lyoya,
yes,
and that's when I was attacked for standing up, but I'm willing to give up my seat, my life, and my career for civil rights and for these young people that are dying by the hand of law enforcement.
And that's the point, right? Is that there's 2 current or former elected officials up here. How many state representatives, how many city commissioners, how many county commissioners, how many state level electeds represent us? How many of them have used that position over the last couple of years to change the system, or at the very least to speak up about it? So yes, all voting is local. Yes, our vote matters. But voting isn't the only thing we can do. We can boycott businesses, and we can do many other things. This is only one of those steps, but the work is going to continue. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, thank you. I would like to add that when it comes to the jury pick, I'm so glad that our panelists brought that up. Because I went to the trial every single day, except a brief one day I had to run to Texas, came right back. But I watched the jury pick, and a lot of people were upset downtown because they asked me some questions, and I don't know what those questions surrounded, but I said right then and there, this jury pick is wrong, it's foul. Anybody ever cheated in cards? Now I'm from the street. Thank you, God, for changing my life. But when you a sucker, the game was already set before you walked in. The game was already set before you walked in. So some of you might have saw me on the news when I said, the jury selection is flawed. Two people who have connections to the Grand Rapids Police Department are on the jury. Another person who said she either is married or engaged to a police officer, but he's in Walker or Granville, it ain't Grand Rapids. They are a fraternity. All us got family members. You gonna say because your family member live in Wyoming, you ain't got their back? You gonna say because they moved to Kentwood, you don't have their back? So I saw that. I saw the racial makeup of it, but I got some white friends that they did more than want to find them guilty, they wanted to drag them out of court. So not only were there some racial disparities there was some demographic disparities there. And the defense asked a stupid question that wasn't too stupid. Do you like the mountain climb? Do you like this sport or do you like skiing? And now people say, why wouldn't you ask that? Because he was asking people who might think this cross-country runner that's on the stand that might have something they could relate to the officer. Like Vin Johnson say, they get the best lawyers that money can buy. And they were picking people from Sparta, Cedar Springs. People that don't even deal with the police, they deal with sheriff departments. They deal with things that are not the same as in the urban area. They're not driving through Grand Rapids. People live in Grand Rapids can drive by and say, why are they always pulling these black people over? When the Michigan Civil Rights came here, they proved that they were pulling over African Americans at a high rate. But if you're up past Cedar Springs, I'm not putting people in Cedar Springs down, but I've never been called to trial to be the judge of what's going on in Cedar Springs. So it was a hard battle from the start. I'm just gonna leave it there because we got a lot of ground to cover. But I was glad that the news did not edit that out and that we did get that out there because a lot of us have been working on that jury selection for a long time, studying into it, seeing what we can do, and it's gonna take a whole lot. But I will finish by saying this. Patrick Lyoya was shot in the back of the head on video. Christopher Shore, for the first time, somebody went to court and stood in front of a jury of their peers that I've seen in my lifetime. So if this is the jury you're picking, what happens to the African-American male who would just grab between his crotch and end up getting into a fight with the police officer when he goes to trial? Will he get a jury of his peers? Or will he get those same Cedar Springs, Sparta people who came in and watched a young man be shot in the back of the head and said he shouldn't have got out the car? One juror said, and I really call out the defense attorneys for doing this. It wasn't an all-white jury. At one point, there were 3 Hispanics on the jury and 1 African-American female. they dismissed 2 of the Hispanic people that were on there and put them as alternates. But they didn't know who would be alternates. They let them all watch the whole trial. You picked the 2 at the end. So what I don't like that the defense did is one juror got on the news, no fault of the news stations, they're just interviewing him, and he wanted to rattle and run his mouth. And he said, the problem was the black woman in there, she was the biggest holdout. Or we could have acquitted her. Then the news said, let me get this right, that the defense, they validated what he said. You can't do that. Because what if this black woman was on a jury and she was trying John Gotti? You can't go out there and put who she is when everybody in court saw her face. That's a target on her back when she get pulled over by the police. And they identified her by race. And I don't know why the defense would say anything that has to do with that. Give it up for that sister that held it down. I watched the trial. And I watched this beautiful young lady come in there with the hope, not a smile, but a pleasant look on her face. Then they came back and they said the jury was 8 guilty, 4 for acquittal, but the 8 guilty were 4 for second-degree murder, 4 for manslaughter. They all came out. She had a pleasant look. They came back out. It had moved to 7-5. And I saw redness in her eyes. And I saw stress in her face. I said, they working her. I said, God, please hold this woman. Please hold her up. Don't fold. Please don't fold. I said, now I could be wrong. She could be crying because she's the one acquitting and they trying to tell her, something else. But I said, I think she's trying to hold on. And I never would have told you this story if they didn't point her out. By the time she came out and it was 10-2, eyes was almost bloodshot red. Pink, her eyes was turning pink. And I said, I could be wrong, but I think they working on her back there. And I said, God, please. You said what? God was working. Because that's who I prayed to. God, hold her up. Hold her up. But I have to call the defense out on that. That's not fair. I seen people on there, and whether I agree with who, once you say 10-2, 11-1, I could look and say, maybe the rest of these jurors, but as a Kent County commissioner, I'm not going to undermine the justice system by coming out here and saying this person was wearing this, or this person had long hair, or describe the jury to you specifically, individually, because that's wrong. Whether I agree with the jurors or not, I agree we got a system that's worth working on. We got a lot of work. A lot of work. But I'm not going to put nobody else's life in danger. We didn't take no pictures of the jury. We're not going to do that. And I tell you, when I see my cousin Lincoln Buggs out here, I thank him for coming out supporting us. But I tell you, me and Lincoln, him on Prospect, me on Lafayette, we could look out our window and see the police harassing people, pulling down people's clothes, looking for crack back in our day. We don't know if they still doing that today. And if you got beat up, you didn't have no elected officials that would look into your thing. You got beat up, you just took it and went on about your life with a chip on your shoulder. Well, I want to thank GRPD for whooping my butt because I still got that chip on my shoulder. And I'm going to make sure no other kids have to go through what we went through. Allie, the activist. What message does a hung jury mistrial verdict in the Officer Sure trial send to society?
I really just want to say that I'm not at all surprised that the very system that allowed Patrick Lyoya to be killed in the first place didn't bring him justice. Again, like Erica had mentioned earlier, we have been going to city commission meetings, arranging meetings with city officials years before Patrick Lyoya was killed. I specifically remember activists being beaten in the middle of Art Prize in front of thousands of tourists by the Grand Rapids Police Department. And when they went to the news and lied that no one was injured despite multiple people having to go to the hospital and seek care following that event, we went to the city commission meeting. We went to the city commission meeting, and I can't even count how many people looked those city officials in their faces and said, if you don't do something about this, someone is going to die. And even after Patrick was killed, we said, how many more people have to die in order for something to be changed? Patrick was not the only person killed by GRPD. We have Hank Weimer, who was killed by GRPD. A lot of people don't know about that. They shot him multiple times outside of the hospital and had a canine drag his body across the street. Yes, within seconds. This man needed help, not a bullet. They're going to keep doing this, and again, I'm not at all surprised that this is a hung jury. I'm disgusted, I'm disappointed, because as an activist, as a person, this was a very cut and dry case. That man executed Patrick Lyoya. There wasn't even any gunshot residue because he had the gun pressed directly against the back of his head. He killed him like he was nothing. And we had to, and not just us, but the family has had to experience people harassing them, people going out of their way to justify this senseless killing. Modern day lynching. It was an execution the way he killed that man. Yep. And they're gonna keep doing it, which is why we have to come together and fight against this stuff. Like I said, I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised at all that Dana Nessel didn't have a backbone to pick up this case. I'm not surprised that Chris Becker didn't have a backbone to retry this case. I'm not surprised that these city officials, not every city official, I understand there's some city officials that spoke out about this, but I'm not surprised the city officials that were here when Patrick was killed were silent. Patrick's blood was equally on their hands as the police department because they ignored people, not just activists, but regular people. Again, I want to emphasize what Erica said earlier. More activists have spent time in jail, more time in jail than the officer that killed Patrick Lyoya. They spent more time in jail. Myself, Kai, Nico, Erikai, B, I'm missing people because there's so many of us that have gotten arrested for fighting for justice for Patrick Lyoya, for standing up against the police department. They're so quick to weaponize the system against us, but when it's one of their own caught in the system, they baby them. They get to file appeals. They get to have these lawyers and all these things. We get none of that.
Thank you. Ali, the activist. What message does a hung jury mistrial verdict in the Officer Sure trial send to society?
It sends a message of an unwillingness to change. See, the system we have right now, it's designed to be this way, where the people don't get their voices heard, where the people, if they dissent, they get killed, they get imprisoned, they get their lives ruined, family members are lost. It is purposely designed this way. And it is up to us to change that system. Because who funds these police departments? Who are the people living in this city who are being policed? I didn't have a say in who gets that badge, who gets that gun, who gets to tell me what to do in these high-pressure situations, giving me contradictory orders. I didn't get a say. I know none of you did either. How is it fair that that system continues to exist in this day, in 2025? See, policing was built out of slave patrols. So why do we still have the system that represses people of color in this city? It's up to us to all come together. I don't care if you're Chicano, I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're white, it affects all of us. They might be sending us a message, and we gotta send them one back too.
Give it up for girls, Records Alliance. Rodney Brown, what would you say to the Patrick Lyoya family who is struggling to understand this American justice system after this hung jury mistrial verdict that the Patrick Lyoya family has said has broken their heart? What would you say to the Lyoya family who are struggling to understand the American justice system?
There's no words really that I could say to the Lyoya family aside from God be with you, family, and those that love Patrick. But there's no words to say that. I will say though that with the film that we're producing, we were in the middle of probably our second year of producing A City Within a City. And then the murder happened, the assassination happened. In our film, we talk about the system of managerial racism that exists in Grand Rapids. And Ty Robinson, the author of the book, uses that term, and that term hadn't been used in 60 years, but to identify this system here in Grand Rapids. And so as we were talking about managerial racism, which, is insidious, institutional racism, extremely insidious, then we see the most visible form of that through the assassination of Patrick. And it shook us as filmmakers. Like, how do we tell this, and I tease some of my partners around this soft term of managerial racism when it's much worse than that. It is, it's much worse than that. And I'll just add that there's a couple points. Attorney Johnson made the point about the game, and I've heard someone else say something about the game, and Sister Erica makes the point of take it personal. We see that this is not a game. These people are not playing with us. This system is not playing with this community. And although it's more prominent now because we see things through social media, and the murders that the police and state police have done in their so-called duty, we've not seen that sort of exaggerated since Michael Brown and then obviously George Floyd. And so we're just seeing it more and more and more. But it's always happened. We just didn't see it. And so I would just encourage us all to take it personal, as Sister Erica is saying. And if anyone tells you that business is not personal and that politics are not personal, move fast away from that person, because it's personal. I mean, it's personal. And so to this point of, for all of us born and raised in Southeast Grand Rapids, and the repeat traumas and the secondary trauma that our community faces. I remember in 1994, I had a nephew who was murdered on the corner of Lafayette and Highland at 14 years old, and I'm fresh out of college, and that hit me. It's my brother's only son, and it was a drive-by shooting, and he was murdered. And since then, and there's been so much death that I've seen that for me, and I don't know if it is for everyone else, but I stay in a kind of perpetual sense of grief, that I'm just not happy. I'm not happy about what's happening in my community and what's happening with our families. And so to that end, if there's a takeaway, this is not a game, this is not new, and take it personal. I will add a point though about the trial, and as I was watching the trial, and the prosecutor allowed for the two captains to to testify that what the officer did was not unreasonable. And I thought there should have been a check to that. And I thought that someone else he could have called someone else, because I think when he made that point to say that this is how the officer was trained, that sets the precedent. That was really damaging, I think, in the trial. And I would have liked to see Becker call someone else, including the police chief.
Thank you. Erica Cage, what would you say to the Patrick Lyoya family who is struggling to understand the American justice system in 1 minute or less?
I wanted to answer this question because I had that opportunity. As the Lyoya family walked out of the courtroom, John focused on them and saw that while Christopher Scher, they blocked off the street for Christopher Scher, they had officers to escort Scher and his family and his supporters. The Lyoya family walked out with 2 sheriffs. After this devastating news, after reliving the event that took their son away from them, they walked out with just 2 officers. They were met by John and myself and other activists. And you know what we said to them as they were walking to their car? Commissioner Womack was there. We surrounded them and we chanted, "Justice for Patrick."
Justice for Patrick! Justice for Patrick! Justice for Samuel! Justice for Samuel! Justice for Riley! Justice for Riley!
It's not, yeah, absolutely. It's not ever going to bring Patrick back, but I can tell you I hugged Patrick's father and his mother, and I whispered in both of their ears, "We won't stop." And I meant that.
Thank you, Erica. We won't stop, can't stop. I'm glad Jamar has the great question for a great man. Jamar Sterling is the cousin of Samuel Sterling, and he's been out with us since the George Floyd stumping hard. Why do you think the trial of Brian Keeley and Christopher Scher was scheduled to run at the same time, overlapping?
To divide us. To divide us, to keep us divided.
Come on, son.
They don't want us to unify. They don't want us to unite. But look at us. Look at this panel. It's long overdue. Some couldn't make it, but together we can't be stopped. Grand Rapids, stand up.
Grand Rapids, stand up. Grand Rapids, stand up. On stage, stand up. Backstage, stand up. Whole audience, stand up. I put this panel together because as a politician, there's some things I can bring to the table, things the Urban League can bring to the table, things Vin Johnson has brought to the table, things our activists can bring to the table, and our community organizers. Let's give it up for the voice of some of the people who are a little younger here without gray hair. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this panel. I want to go to the lawyer of the NAACP, have him introduce himself, and I want you to answer this question. What message does the dismissal of the Brian Keeley, Samuel Sterling case send to society, and why do you think there was a mistrial and hung jury?
4 minutes, okay, thank you. So when we look at all of these cases, we also look at the data that's already, you can look it up right now, Washington Post, you can go to their website on officer-involved shootings. You could also go to mappingpoliceviolence.com. That's the Campaign Zero group, they created that. Has a whole list of use of force by law enforcement all across the country. They even list it out by cities across the country. They publicize it every year on their website. When you look at both of them, you'll see that even when Biden and Harris were elected president into the White House in 2020, that was the big time, right? After all the civil rights movement protests, we got them elected, we got Derek Chauvin locked up, et cetera. We thought, okay, this is a new era. From that 4-year time period, from 2020 to last year, we had some of the highest number of officer-involved shootings across the country. We had the highest number of use of force of law enforcement on regular, everyday civilians across the country. So when we look at what was happening before this current administration came into office, we were already set on this trajectory. So what I'm saying is this. With that said, I always say that anything that happens from the White House always trickles down, right? When Obama was president, and I know people have issues with him. I did a lot of work in DC when I was at Legal Defense Fund as an attorney, did a whole lot of work on this, on the Ferguson consent decree in Baltimore. President Obama to this day has done more than any other president in US history when it comes to addressing issues on police and civilians, the way that they engage. We have not seen anybody do more than that. Even Biden and Harris did not do more, and the data shows that. When you look at the data when Obama was president, the numbers went down across the country for officer-involved shootings. That began in 2015. What happened in 2015? We had the creation of the 21st Century Policing Task Force report and the recommendations in it. How was that created? It was not created by police. It was created with victims of police violence and their family members. It was created by academics, by groups like NAACP, by activists, abolitionists, all of them coming together, required by executive order from President Obama to work with the police union and law enforcement and the pro-police lobby and create this report, hearing from people around the country about their experiences, documenting it, and then coming together with something, not a perfect solution, but something that's tangible, actionable, and workable. Not just, hey, we got a foot pursuit policy, but guess what? If our guys don't do what they're supposed to do, we'll just fudge a story together and make it seem like they actually did something reasonable. What does that sound like? That sounds like what just happened with the case with Officer Sher. Okay, what they did was not reasonable. Anybody with common sense could see that. Okay, the same thing with Ryan Surley. That does not make any sense for any officer to engage in any of those actions and have it be seen as reasonable. However, what they do is they take the policies on the books, they fudge a story together that makes sense. Oh yeah, if Patrick would have flipped over, grabbed my taser, tased me in the eyeball, then unholstered my gun, and then shot me in the head because I'm wearing Kevlar, so if it shoots me in the body, I'm not gonna die, then that's what I was worried about. That was the imminent threat. How does that make any common sense? That's a comic book story, okay? That's not reality. So the fact that they were able to get the majority of the jurors to agree to that fact pattern, that applied to the law, to the policies on the books, that to me is an example of what I said earlier. When whoever's in the White House, what they do in the culture that they're putting out there trickles down to the local level. And I think that that's what's impacting all of these cases right now. Because I do believe, even with Biden and Harris not being better than Obama in that way, they were still there. We still had Kristen Clark heading the Civil Rights Division, doing the pattern of practice investigations, which were the most ever in US history under her, okay? They were doing the hate crimes investigations. They were doing the stuff that now we're seeing what happens when that does not get done, okay? We're seeing the violence increase around the country. We're seeing the results of these cases and others, like in Memphis with Tyree Nichols. They got completely acquitted. And once again, common sense. You can't beat somebody to death on camera, make up a story while you're on camera, and then say, oh yeah, that was reasonable. That's not common sense, okay? So I just want us to be aware that what we see happening in the federal government is now everywhere. It's affecting everything, and what it's doing is it's giving law enforcement the okay that you can do what you want, and guess what? If you get in trouble, we're gonna get the best attorneys to represent you. We're gonna use taxpayer dollars to fund them from the federal government. That's what the federal government's doing right now, okay? And we're not going to enforce the DOJ anymore. They're not getting involved. So it's up to the state and local government. And I'll be honest, it's just like with the DEI stuff. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. We had all these businesses, all these local governments. Yeah, we support DEI. Yeah, we're all in. We're going to invest. 4 years later, new president, we don't have to do that anymore. Okay? The same thing is happening when it comes to all of the success and efforts that came out of the movement in 2020, from the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and so many others, okay? We're now seeing them do what they wanted to do anyway. They never wanted to do a consent decree in Minneapolis. They never wanted to do a consent decree in Louisville and Memphis, okay? Trump is their scapegoat. That's their excuse. And the same thing goes for Grand Rapids. Okay, at the end of the day, the question that should have been answered at that trial, that should have been the only question that should have been answered as to if what Sure did was reasonable or not is, why was he fired?
Yes.
Plain and simple as that. Because it had to be somebody in the city and the police chief to come together and say, we're firing him regardless of the police union backlash. So whatever they did, and Michigan State Police with their investigation, that's what should have been in the forefront of the prosecutor's case, not the taser. That's what it should have been, and it was not. So in my opinion, that's a problem, and that's something that as a community, y'all have to figure out what are you gonna do, because you can't do Minneapolis, you can't do Louisville, you can't do Detroit, you can only do Grand Rapids. This is your city, you own it, and to be honest, you own them. Okay, their salaries and pensions are paid for 100% from your taxpayer dollars. So I just want to make sure we all understand the power we have and that it's up to us to do it, not the DOJ. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the family, two more questions, and they will come to Maurice Barnes, former GRPD, and to Vin Johnson, the attorney. With you being a former Grand Rapids Police Department officer, can you tell us in 3 minutes, after watching the video of Brian Keeley running over Samuel Sterling, what do you think he did wrong, and what do you think was done wrong in the Christopher Shore, Patrick Lyoya, things that you noticed after being a police officer?
I'd like to also place Riley in there also. After I viewed all.
I had a question for Riley coming up separate, because what happens is we're taking all three. We take Patrick Lyoya, then we take Samuel Sterling, then we take Riley. But since we got you on here, let's do all three together.
After I viewed the videos, based on the training I had and which stands today, discretion was used by the judge and Dana Nessel. In the Sterling case, this officer was in a parking lot. He went over a curb barrier that was there to protect the entrance from vehicular traffic. He came over the curb. He hit the young man and he pinned him to the wall. In the Riley situation, that vehicle on a right angle, 45 degrees, was used as a weapon, similar to the Sterling. In the Lyoya case, he violated policy of discharging and engagement of the gun. First thing we're supposed to do is identify the suspect, recognize if we can make the hit. We were taught to shoot in the mass of the body. Third, we couldn't discharge unless we saw the backdrop. Would any innocent person beyond the shot be hit? Yes, it happens quickly, but we were trained to take that shot. If it was legal, necessary, and the citizen's life was in danger or our life was in danger, or we can't shoot. He had other weapons that he was trained to use by and issued by the Grand Rapids Police Department. When it got into court, Becker played games with the jury, with the questions, and so did Nessel and what's that other one's name? Becker? Yeah, Becker and Nessel. They could have made that decision because they used discretion. The system isn't broken, the system isn't flawed. It worked just the way it worked when I was there. Whoever was in charge had that discretionary decision. That's discretion from Nessel so far, and it was discretion from Becker. They didn't follow the elements or the fact of evidence in any of those shootings. My situation here now, to protect us, we must get the manual of training from the police department. I got it from the mayor's office, and online, it's only an outline. It doesn't have the line item elements, like I just was telling you or stating to you about the use of force, lethal force, what weapons are to be used in what situations based on the situation. The two captains testified to the training manual. It was never brought out in evidence or shown in evidentiary hearing or presented by Becker in the case. The two officers who said they were trainers, they didn't present it. It was all statements. I'm still going to say publicly, and I hope I'm on News 8 or News 3 or News 13, Becker fixed the jury. It did not have It did not have our demographics of our county. Red, yellow, black, white, and brown. That's a fair and equitable jury for all. Sure had a right to have a jury of his peers, but we as taxpayers had a right to have our demographics, just like the police department should have demographics with the officers. All three of those people, based on me being a police officer, they would have fired Maurice Barnes. I'd be in prison right now. So these guys should be held responsible. The best way I think that we can handle this situation is protest and boycotts. We need to protest the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Bureau, the Convention Bureau, the Amway Sports Arena, City Council, the City Manager, the City Attorney. What we're facing with the Grand Rapids Police Department, I faced. The organizational culture and the organizational behavior is one of aggression, being aggressive, and contentious. That's the culture. The behavior, which expresses in their behaviors to us on the street, are tasers, shootings, and physical incidents. I'm gonna steal something from this lawyer. The tangible, actionable, workable thing should be, we must affect their pocketbook. We must try to break the FOP union. Anytime you have a situation, go to internal affairs, make a complaint. That makes them have to get the state attorney and the union people. Thank you.
Let's give it up for former GRPD police officer Maurice Barnes. As we move on to Riley Dogget, we'll start with Ving Johnson. Ving Johnson, why don't you think any charges came after Riley Dogget, who was a passenger in a car that was reported to be stolen, but he was a passenger, and it's never been proven that he knew the car was stolen. He was not in control of the car. He left the car, he ran one way, the driver ran the other way. The deputy turned his car into Riley, ran over him, causing severe fatal damage to the head of Riley Dogget, who later passed away. Why do you think he was not charged, and what message does that send to society?
The message is an obvious one. It's a horrible one, that the police can get away with anything they do, period. Riley Doggett's case is almost identical to Samuel Sterling's case in terms of the actions by the officer. We have video that you can see that the wheel is spun, if you will. I'm going to call it old school, y'all. 9 o'clock to past 6:30, right? Past the 6. And there's only one thing that our cars do when you spin the wheel that fast is go right. So both of these officers are doing exactly what the fine gentleman said below, or to my right, and that is they make this shit up. And what happens is, I agree also, former officer, thank you, sir. People want to talk about, we need more training. Y'all, they have more training. You don't even know how much training they have. They know all this. They're trained to do it the right way. What happens is exactly what this fine gentleman just said. The people on top end up covering up for them. That's what they do. And why is it? Because they don't want to end up paying for what they've done. So, without any question, why wasn't he charged? Riley was not charged, in my opinion, for one reason and one reason only. Allegedly, he and the gentleman driving the car were engaged in stealing cars. And then that gentleman, not Riley, but Riley was in the front seat, he's guilty by association because that dude was going about 100 miles an hour down streets. And when you start running from the cops in cars, their level of force, as this fine gentleman on my right would tell you, can increase. You have a United States Supreme Court opinion, y'all, from years ago, that if someone tries to use the car as a weapon, which Anderson did, you can use deadly force against him. It's never been ruled that you can against his front seat passenger, excuse me, but what they're going to say is that he was an accessory, so he was as guilty as the driver. That's what they'll say. So that's why he wasn't charged. Whereas in Sterling's case, they did charge him because they knew he was simply running, right? I want to say this about your comments about jury selection in Kent County. Y'all, I've tried so many cases in Kent County. That jury was no different than every single one of my juries I've ever picked in that county courthouse. So as much as I agree with you that these folks come from other places, it's Kent County, not Grand Rapids. So what I would like you to do in terms of write down our to-do list of what we need to do, maybe one of these FOIA requests could go to the Kent County official that is in charge of jury pools. We call them jury veneers. And find out why, with so many people of color in this county, why they're never in that courthouse on a jury. Step one. Without any question, race plays a role in every one of these situations. You all know that. But I'm going to throw another twist. With race, obviously, often in our country, sadly to this day, comes a difference of, I'll call it culture and growing up. And when you are a white kid, the last thing in the whole world I got to worry about on my two sons is the same thing that many of you in this room have to worry about every single frickin' day. And it's disgusting. But once somebody like that, like me, I never have a problem with a cop, of course not. But now, when you have somebody, a white person on a jury, in addition to being white, with obviously implicit and explicit racism to the point it is in our country, we all can agree on, I think. But on top of that, you're now selecting jurors who have never had an issue with an officer. So you want to know why it was hung, y'all? Because it accurately reflects our country right now. Even though the cop breaks the law, the jurors know in Lyoya that if they find him guilty, where's he going to go? Right. And it's not so clear to them. Do I really want to send a guy to prison when he was trying to do the right thing and somebody just ran away and did all this other shit that they make up? That's one of the good things that happens in my civil cases. Okay? I don't have beyond a reasonable doubt. I have a lower standard, and the juries know that the cops don't have to go to jail. So going to jail in a criminal case against a cop is a huge factor. Is it racially based? It certainly is in part, but it's also culturally based and experience based, and I think it is a problem when people, and I say this every day and the news knows I do, white people still have to accept, which they don't yet in our country, every single one of these officers in these three cases broke the law, and killed somebody as part of it. All I know is this. I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, and it ain't right.
Thank you. Clee Jackson. Clee Jackson, in 3 minutes or less. What can we do to make sure nothing else happens in our social justice system as what just happened to Becky Dogget when her son was run over by a Kent County deputy? No charges came. There was no outreach to her from agencies within the county that could tell her what had happened to her son. Without lawyers, she probably wouldn't have half the details she have now. So as we look at this mirage of injustice that has happened to Becky Dogget surrounding the death of her son, Riley, what can we do as a community to make sure this doesn't continue to happen to parents? 3 minutes or less. Clee Jackson. Yeah, I said that at the beginning, Clee Jackson. I stepped right there and said Clee Jackson. Only one Clee Jackson. If anybody else want to take it, but.
That's, it's a heavy, that's a loaded question. What do we do? Quite honestly, I'm just gonna be 100% transparent. I don't know. I really don't. We have seen incidents like these horrific incidents that that go back decades, quite honestly. When this happened with Patrick, we sent a letter to Kristen Clark requesting and demanding a pattern and practice investigation into the Grand Rapids Police Department. And we gave a very detailed timeline of cases dating back to Quinn Carter. I didn't know about the case that you testified. And not all of these individuals were murdered by local law enforcement, but there was significant injury. Quinn Carter spent 17 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit at 17 years old, and he was exonerated. When the victim, the individuals, he didn't even know the victim. The individuals that actually committed the crime didn't even know him. There was no DNA, there was no testimony that put him at that crime scene. He was just a fall guy in a failed investigation by the Grand Rapids Police Department in the King County Prosecutor's Office. And he lost 17 years of his life. So I don't know what we do. The only thing that, as I said earlier, we have to make sure that we keep a record of receipts. And remember that the prosecutor is an elected official. All of the county commissioners, like yourself, are elected officials. And I don't know if any other county commissioners are even here tonight. That's telling within itself. And the judges are elected officials. So if we are so pissed off and angry about this system, we have to, one of the things that we can do, like all of the activists that are out here, put them in a position to be able to replace some of these individuals and support them financially and whatever. So, and the other thing that we can do is this, and just like we're doing tonight, I know there are folks in this room that don't get down with the NAACP. I know there are folks in this room that don't like the way I move or how I move or how we move. But one of the things that we have to do is to come together and use all of our resources and our intellectual capital and our power to make some things happen. You ain't got to be a member of the NAACP. You ain't got to be a member of the Urban League. But at some point, we need to come together and do this, right? Amen. And come up with a plan to say this is what we do. And the other thing, this is my last thing, we have to be willing to sacrifice. When we talk about economic boycott locally, we have to be willing to sacrifice to do that. We have to be willing to invest money in black businesses, in brown businesses, and create businesses in order to do this. So that's what we have to do. We have to also make sure that these young black men and young black women who are graduating every year from these police academies, that they're actually being given the opportunity and being hired, and there's not an excuse that's being made by the Grand Rapids Police Department, by Wyoming, by Kentwood, and anybody else. Because this is not just a GRPD thing, this is a law enforcement issue across the board. And that's what we have to do. So that's it.
Thank you. Israel, Siku wants to say something. I'm going to have to cut you off in 2 minutes because we do have to get to the family and some other things that are on the agenda.
Not even 2 minutes, but I think it just say what I was about to say. This is a cancer. And when you fight a cancer, you have to have a surgeon. Our community don't have surgeon. We are not raising future lawyer. We are not raising future activists. We are not raising future fighter. When I look at Dr. King, what he left behind, Jesse Jackson, Reverend L. Sharpton, and then we have Ben Crump that is standing over there by himself. These people will be afraid more if they know that we have a community that is represented by a higher lawyer who can stand up and fight for the community. I think we need to push our children to go to school to understand the system so they can fight the system. The only way to deal with the cancer, you have to understand it, how it operates. And once you understand it, you can defeat it.
Thank you, Israel. Well, before we move to the next agenda, I would like to say, and we started this with faith. And, you know, I serve a God that split the Red Sea. Amen. A God that took a grain of sand and created a man. Amen. Nothing's impossible, and we can get it done. But we got to get it done together. We got to get it done united. I picked people from different walks of life. A former GRPD police officer who could be on this panel and discuss the manual, the training, community activists, organizers, lawyers, interpreter, NAACP, Urban League, the families who've been affected by it, black, white, men, women. Together we can get it done. And as a politician, I want to bring to the forefront what I know about this. And this is why we always need somebody there. I put the families with Ben Crump and Van Johnson because my local lawyers, who I love, and I lost one as a friend that wanted the case so bad, but they were too weak. They were too weak. They wanted the case, but they didn't want to make a lot of noise. And that's what happened to a lot of cases, as Ali mentioned, Erica mentioned. And Cleve mentioned, there's other people that have been killed. There's other people that have had miscarriages of justice. But when you got lawyers that when they fight each other want to go out and play golf. You know, I get invited to that stuff now as the county commissioner. You think I'm really there playing golf, having fun? I'm watching who knows who. I didn't know you knew him. I thought y'all were fighting in court. How you doing? Everybody knows everybody, except that they don't know the community and taxpayers who are paying their salaries. When we come in, we're the strangers. Becky Dogget is a stranger that they want to just disrespect, but they can't disrespect her if we stand with her. Hendrika Cage Michael Sterling, these are hardworking parents who pay taxes and are from the working class and are the fabric of not only America, but Kent County and Grand Rapids, because they don't know them. They want to run over them, disrespect them, say stupid things from the judge's seat about immunity for an officer who ran their son up against a wall. And some of those lawyers also some of those officers laughed and had fun while Samuel Sterling lay down. How can you be a parent and watch that and not want to tear something up? Your child, but they can't run over Dreka Cage and Michael Sterling. If we stand with them, they cannot do that. The reason I say every fabric has to be at these tables united as a politician, I can tell you, Dana Nelson may not call back. It's highly disrespectful not to call back who we have appointed and voted for to be the president of the NAACP. If you don't respect the man, you respect his seat. You respected everyone that carries that title. Cleve Jackson, Hazel Lewis, and the next president. But what can I bring to the table as a politician? The person she has to call back is the state representatives. And we have about 4 or 5. We just had the trifecta. Nobody wants to hear that. But you want to hear it if you really want some change. And I'm not here to put it only on, I'm not calling out no state representatives. I'm calling out everybody from Obama on down. I love Obama. But you didn't get the job done. I love myself, Commissioner Robert S. Womack, but I didn't get the job done. But at least I can say I gave it my all. I can say I gave it my all and I'm not done fighting. And you might think, well, why would he say these things? Because they got my people thinking that the possible is impossible. How can Burger King make an impossible burger? But we can't get that impossible justice for Patrick Lyoya, that impossible justice for Samuel Sterling, that impossible justice for Riley Dogget, impossible justice for Eric Nagel. Lots of people are dying. But let me tell you what I see that's not supposed to be possible. The world's concerned with an endangered whale, an eagle that can't fly, a ship that can't sail. But what about mama's baby? They don't educate me. They kill me and alienate me. Where are my young friends? They slowly disappearing. Where are these young men and girls? They disappearing. The world's concerned with an endangered whale, an eagle that can't fly, a ship that can't sail. Impossible. They want an aquarium. It's coming. But they ain't got money for JobCore. They ain't got money for these kids getting kicked out at 110 Hall Street. And I know the address by heart because I went to South Middle, that very building, and they kicked us out. And now they're kicking these young people out. The world's concerned with an endangered whale, an eagle that can't fly, a ship that can't sail. But what about our babies? They don't educate me, they alienate me. Them kids going out in the street. Patrick Lyoya, 26 years old, underneath 6 feet of dirt. Samuel Sterling got kids, can't get no justice. Riley Dogget was a baby. What about our babies? They want a soccer field and to play international sports. And you know who they come to get it? Me. the other commissioners, the state reps, and they tap us and they say, make it happen. But what about when our voters come and say, make it happen? Provide somewhere for those people coming out of JobCore, them kids. Provide some justice. Y'all more powerful than you think. You're way more powerful. And I'm not putting down the soccer field, the amphitheater. But we're talking about impossible, right? We're talking about the government cutting budgets and cutting programs and kicking kids out the street and attorney generals not calling back the NAACP of Grand Rapids, Michigan. But there's somebody that Dana Nelson is calling back, and their pockets look like this. They calling them back. United, we got more money than them. United, we got more power. We got to stand up. We got to call everybody accountable. Everybody. Don't let me off the hook. If I ever get tired, say, Rob, you better keep fighting or we can get you out here and get somebody else that can. Because when I'm tired, I'm going to quit. Because I got better things to do. I like to dance and DJ and have fun. I'm only still out here because this is life and death. This is life and death. If any of those politicians would take me up on it when I invite them to Patrick Lyoya's funeral, when I invite them to Samuel Sterling's funeral, maybe they would get it. So I just say, hold us accountable. Right now, we're going to move to the family. So one thing we're going to need is some of the people to trade seats with the family, and then we're going to go into a quick thing with JobCore. Some people might have to leave. For those that can stay, please stay. But all of y'all don't have to leave now. Now, anyone wants to, but we would like a few seats. And some of our activists can stay up here and take some people can, well, you family, some people can take some of the back seats and trade with the family. Who got a child up here, a teenager, that can help me read something off? All right, mama, thank you. Send him up here with the commissioner. All right. We need a young man that can read because we're about to start something give it up for this young man. Hold it pretty close, about 1.5 inches from your mouth so they can hear you. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Now, what we're going to do is, this is something that anybody that got some kids and don't know your rights when you're pulled over by the police can come to me and get a copy at the end, or I can get your email and email it to you digitally. We're finishing up an app that has a CR code where the kids can get it on their phone, because right now, if police officers are killing people and judges are saying, hey, you ran away, they got immunity, that's done. We grew up in a whole nother different age. Like my friend Mark said, we grew up where the police, you talk a lot of junk, he'd say, I'll take off my badge. And y'all could get down. I don't know what's happening with the police department. We didn't like the fact that when we used to run, we used to get beat up, and we'd be like, well, you know you're going to get a beating if they catch you. But they in the new age, if they catch you, they're going to kill you. They're going to run you over because they're upset. So our kids have to understand that the rules of engagement, when pulled over by a police, and you adults too, we all have to understand that we have to be trained to know what our rights are. Because when we don't know what our rights are, they know your rights. And if you don't know your rights, you can get yourself involved. Just like we ask the police not to escalate things, we need the community not to escalate things. But I would believe it's up to the politicians and the legislators who make these policies and laws to make sure that the public is aware of what their rights are. So I'm gonna start, we're just gonna do the first page. Commissioner Womack, the do's and don'ts of police pedestrian stops. If you are stopped for questioning, do understand that the police may stop and question you for a reasonable suspicion. They cannot just stop you for no reason. But you don't have to look suspicious or be a potential witness to a crime. All they need is reasonable suspicion. Do show your identification. You may ask them, am I under arrest? Unless based on specific and clearly describable facts along with reasonable inferences or suspecting that you are committing or about to commit a crime, you are generally free to leave no matter what. Stay calm. We'll have you read the next one, right there.
Do understand that during a stop, the police can ask about your name, address, and age. You must provide your ID.
Give it up for this young man. I'm also going to be approaching our school systems to engage with parents because we should do nothing without getting the parents' permission. But I'm going to engage the school system to ask you, the parents, for permission for us to start teaching our kids their rights and what they must do when they're pulled over by the police, because it's a very serious situation.
Do ask, am I free to leave? If they say yes, calmly leave.
Do exercise your right to remain silent. Say, I want to remain silent. You legally cannot be arrested or detained for refusing to answer questions. However, it could look suspicious to the police if you answer questions and then suddenly stop, which could lead to an illegal arrest or more questions. Make it your practice to always remain silent. If they continue to ask questions, do say, I want an attorney. And everything, I would ask Van Johnson, think Van Johnson and got out of here. Would they would have to stop. We do have the NAACP president, lawyer here, he's still there. Okay, all right. So we're gonna have you do that one.
Don't try to run away. Although it is illegal to shoot a fleeing suspect, no officer has been found guilty in West Michigan for killing a person that is fleeing.
Give it up for that young man. That was do not run away. Don't physically resist a pat down or search. And I said physically, don't resist a pat down or search because that could lead to an officer illegally using force against you. Do respectably, verbally resist. Do say, I do not consent to a search. We're going to teach our kids what their rights are. And there's about 2 or 3 pages in here. Okay, we're going to go to this one right here. And this will be the last one, even though we got a lot more right there. Yeah, don't disrespect.
Don't disrespect a police officer. Although you have a constitutional right to do, it could escalate the situation leading to your arrest or physical harm.
Let's give it up to this young man. We'd also like to thank the Office of Oversight and Accountability and NAACP, who have also been doing some training on people's rights. As a commissioner and as part of this panel discussion, I felt it was important that we continue to let you know that if you need any help, reach out to me, reach out to NAACP, Grand Rapids Office of Oversight and Accountability. And I don't mind coming to your schools, churches. I don't care if it's a park. I don't care if it's just your block party. We want these kids to live, so we got to teach them. They're living in a different time than what we lived in. Yeah, it was hard when we grew up, but I don't remember anybody doing some of the atrocities that I've seen done to some of these families on this stage. Let's give it up for this young man once again. He said he was shy. So let's give it up to him once again. Yeah, and that doesn't mean we're not gonna work with the police on their training and go hard, but you know, and their psychiatric help. Yeah, I got somebody to talk about that too when it comes to mental health. And I might start one question before I go to the family with Miss Phyllis Loudermill and just talk about, you do a lot with health. What kind of resources are there out there for these families that you might know of when it comes to the trauma that they may not even know that they're experiencing? What kind of advice would you give to families that have lost someone to violence? 3 minutes or less.
I think the biggest thing is when it comes to resources is knowing your community. Resources in the communities is just like everything else. It's either one side or another, and it's based on what you know and who you know and how connected they are to the bases. So being an advocate for a lot of people that come through my programs, and I wonder when I go in to ask the questions, it's the same cookie cutter. So are they doing the best that they can? Maybe. Are they doing the best that they know? Maybe. What we're lacking is that we're not present at the table. You cannot have one group of people to represent all. You have to have people that have boots on the ground, that understand what Shaniqua is thinking, understand what Elizabeth is thinking, and know how to code switch. And so when you look at that from that perspective, we're missing it. Medication, we're missing it. We don't ask questions. We just assume that what we're giving or what we're getting is good for us. We take everything. So that's a long subject. You can't do it in 3 minutes. But I want to talk about trauma and children and what's going on in this community. And it can't be done in just one day.
Thank you, thank you. All right, we're gonna put the mic here. And if the families feel like answering this, please go ahead. And I think our questions are kind of irrelevant because anybody going through what they are going through, definitely, I just can't imagine. But I will start off with Becky Dogget. How do you feel about the officer not being charged in your son's death?
My name is Becky Wilbert.
Becky Wilbert. Now, married now. Okay, Miss Becky Wilbert. Let's get that right. Thank you, Becky.
I don't agree with him not being charged, but I would also like to answer the question you asked earlier about why do I think he wasn't charged. And that's because Chris Becker is too close to the Kent County Sheriff Department, and that's his buddy. That's why he wasn't charged. It would be no different if I was sitting somewhere and I had to say, oh, is my friend guilty or not? Am I gonna charge them or not? Of course, you're not going to. So he should have never been in that position to make that call.
Let's give it up. One of the reasons we have a family here, because nobody knows their situation better than them. Is there anything that this community can do to help you, either with the legal process or any way, with any support through this tragedy that you could think of? Mrs. Wilbur.
I don't even know right now, because sending letters to Dana Nessel and not getting a response, I think, is disrespectful in a whole. So many people reached out, but she hasn't even said, hey, I got your letter, or no, nothing. Just like when we were in the hospital, I didn't get a phone call or this is what happened to your son. I'm asking what happened to my son, and nobody would tell me. I had to see it in a news article on my phone while I'm sitting across from one of the detectives, and he's telling me, I don't know what happened. How do you not know what happened, but you're sitting across from me, but I'm reading it on the news? Nobody is answering for anything.
Have you had a chance to speak to the sheriff Kent County Sheriff thus far?
No. No, nobody's reached out from the Kent County Sheriffs.
Thank you very much. These are some of the things that I am also looking to do. Since MSP has sometime come in to let families know that they've lost a loved one, we're looking to find out how we can immediately get therapists and people involved as they go through that immediately. Also, we need to know if the Kent County Sheriff Department's deputy is involved in a murder and someone is calling about their son, there has to be some type of communication. And that's something we have to bring up at the county. We can't tell the sheriff what to do because she is an elected official, but we do help with the budget when it comes to the sheriff. We do provide the budget for this situation, so I would hope that what we have to say about how Mrs. Dogget was treated wouldn't fall on shallow ears. No more parents should ever be treated like that, and let's give it up for her for standing strong. Before I go to Mrs. Cage and Mr. Sterling, I'm going to take a brief 2-minute from Mrs. Erica Cage.
Just want to compound on what Becky was saying, the fact that she wasn't given any information. The best thing that we as a community can do is accountability or nothing.
Right.
Period. If we put you in that position, we hold you accountable. There are questions that you need to answer. I pay your bills. I make sure that you're comfortable. Make sure that my community knows what's going on with their children at all times. If I'm asking you a question, I deserve an answer. Period, point blank.
Period.
Accountability or nothing.
And when I did get in contact with Mrs. Wilbur and I heard that she hadn't heard from the sheriff department, I did reach out to the sheriff. They said they tried to reach out once. I said, well, reach out again, and I will try to see how we can get some. But then my calls weren't really being answered after that either. And I will go further to say Becky had not had a lawyer yet. She didn't go get a lawyer. She was just out there by herself, making calls. And it took a lawyer to help her get any information. And like I said, this ain't a black thing, white thing. This is a human rights thing. This is a human rights thing. This is about us losing our youth. So when any white people from Cedar Springs, wherever you at, Sparta, might see this on the news, YouTube, or streaming, understand it's coming to an area near you. It could be your child on the highway driving. Your child coming to Grand Rapids to hang out and enjoy themselves on a Friday or Saturday night, and they think you're a native of Grand Rapids. And they shoot your child in the back of the head, or they run over your child. This is about life and death. And like I said, that's one of the reasons I'm still here, fighting for this. I'm going to go to Mrs. Cage now. How did you feel about the dismissal of the case against Brian Keeley as it concerns Samuel Sterling for one of the parents?
I'm Andrika Cage, and I really felt like it was a throw in my face. It slapped me so hard that I got on Facebook and I told everybody, do not call me, because I did not want to talk to anybody. I was sick. I threw up a couple times, and losing my baby just changed me a whole lot. So I really didn't understand any of this at all. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I tell my friends all the time that I don't understand what's going on. And every time I think about it, it's sickening. I was in that courtroom from day one with my son, and when that lady gave the verdict, and I'm just sitting here saying, how can you give this man immunity after he took his car and cut my son in half? I watched my son, and I had to pull that blanket back to see my baby. So I can't believe she didn't want to see the autopsy, but she wanted to see my son's criminal record. There's no justice to this. And I'm going to fight for my baby, and I'm going to fight for y'all.
That's right.
You know what? Mike can't speak.
It's all right, brother.
But his face speaks a million words. They took his son. They took Enrica Cage's son. And I hate to have to bring them out here in the middle of all they're going through, but this is the only way this community is going to understand. We cannot let the justice system and this system shut them down. Shut down their hope for justice. And it's not only justice. They're not even acknowledging the humanity of human beings up here. Not only there's more things happen to them that y'all wouldn't even know. It's bad enough that the case is dismissed. It's bad enough that no one was charged in her son's death and Becky Wilbur's son's death. If you would see what they go through on the internet, I'm not anti-police, but the police is not the Rolling Stones. I'm not no fan like that. Whatever you do, I'm gonna roll with it. Even to the point of abusing parents who lost their job, lost their child. People abuse them on Facebook. When you hear somebody saying something bad about Riley Dogget, you gotta understand a mother has to hear that on the news. When you hear people saying things about Patrick Lyoya, parents have to listen to that. Mrs. Cage and Mr. Sterling have to listen to people talk about their son as if his life is not valuable at all. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Any other women want to come give her a hug? I want the women to come on up. Especially y'all that didn't have a child. Especially you. That done laid on that hospital bed and grabbed them sheets. You men that love your son, if you want to come up and hug Michael Sterling, please do. And I tell you, men, I know how we are. Scared to let our emotions go.
On behalf of all family, we just ask everybody to keep us up in prayers. We ask that even after today, you continue to keep us united. Stay united on a united front with us, not just today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. We have social media platforms. So as you heard Commissioner Womack say, they get dogged out on social media. So a comment, jump in the inbox. Everybody who know their inboxes and know their social media platforms, before you leave, exchange social media platforms. Encourage them with some encouraging words throughout their days, throughout their sleepless nights.
That's right, son.
Right.
This is what community looks like. This is what we need.
Justice for Patrick!
Justice!
Justice for Patrick.
Justice for Patrick.
Justice for Patrick.
Justice for Samuel.
Justice for Samuel.
Justice for Samuel.
Justice for Samuel.
Justice for Riley.
Justice for Riley.
Justice for Riley.
Justice for Riley.
Grand Rapids, stand up.
Stand up. Go ahead, Eric Brown.
So while we're having this moment, I just want to let everybody know too that we reached out as well. As the Urban League, President CEO of the Urban League, we can't get response on any of these cases, so just know that your Urban League is responding. But what's happening here is these are 3 cases that we're talking about. These are 3 cases that have brought our attention to such a point in time as this. Our community is at a point, it's an inflection point. Brother Clee called it a set of precedents. I refer to it as a chasm that has been just busted wide open. Rodney Brown talked about managerial racism that was happening. This is just a manifestation of what's happening in that greater class war. It doesn't matter, these institutions, again, are not valuing the sanctity of human life. It doesn't matter if you're black, it don't matter if you're white, if you're not in the same class system, the same economic status as them, we're all looked at as the same. This has been, since there's been black and white in this country, we know that the class system has been entered in here. When those in power devalue the sanctity of human life, this is where the community goes. I believe our community missed an opportunity in these cases to bridge that divide. It has now opened up that divide. I think they have an opportunity to come back and bridge that divide again, but they make it much difficult. Progress was being made before these things were happening. It was talked about some of the things that we're asking for more, but progress was being made. But this has shut down and hurt the progress that was being made when it comes to police-community relations. Again, like I said, this is an economic issue. We've talked about boycotting, but this is a problem for the greater community economically. People don't want to come to a community that has these issues going on. As many soccer stadiums, as many of those things that we're wanting to put up, those things are all positive, and I'm for those. But when you have things like this, diverse people from outside this place, they're not going to want to come. That's going to hurt the economic engine. And then what happens when this regional economic engine is hurt? Who gets affected the worst? Those of us that are at the lower part of the class system. So there's all these things. And I'm a believer too. The Bible says not to discount physical life. Sanctity of human life is of the utmost important. We are all image bearers of our Creator. Every last one of us image bearers of our Creator. And being so, when those that are instituted with, trained and given and sworn to authority and carry a weapon that can take human life or drive a weapon that can take human life, we have to hold them to a higher standard. We have to make sure that qualified immunity, and that's at a federal level, but qualified immunity is something that we got to go over. The insurance companies that are paying for these insurance cases and the settlements that will happen, those are being paid for out of taxpayers' dollars as well. We have to stand up, as it's been talked about. We have to stand up. No but more of a beautiful thing than all the folks that were collected on the stage. My heart goes out to these 3 families. My heart goes out to these 3 families. These 3 families are bearing the brunt, more so than any of us, of what decades has happened in this community. These 3 families, so one more time for these 3 families. That's how. Rodney said it earlier, our words of condolences, they fall short, and we understand that, but we will keep Patrick, we will keep Samuel, and we will keep Riley, we will keep pursuing justice as a community at every end that we can do. So I just want to, again, my heart goes out to these families. The Urban League is here to help and continue to help in the ways that we can. We will continue to fight for justice. I won't take any more time, but there's some things. Carlton was down there earlier. I love that Vin and Carlton and all these lawyers, they can talk at those levels. We're going to do what we have to do as community leaders and organizers to be able to make sure that that happens.
All right, let's give it up for Eric Brown. Hey, y'all, we got to get Vin back up here to sit up here. I have to know where he's at. Come on up, Vin. I'm not going to stop till you do. Let's give it up for Vin Johnson again. Yeah, Mr. Johnson has been working these cases, and he's had some historical cases that were going on in Florida and all across the United States of America. And I mean, 3 years, he's been putting his time into cases in Grand Rapids, Michigan, fighting at a level in unison with Mr. Ben Crump. Ben Johnson has been fighting at a level for justice here and supporting even through the criminal case. Do you understand that? Even through the criminal case. He always letting them know, hey, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I can't give you criminal lawyer advice, but I'm here. I'm here to support you and hold your hand through this. I've never seen a lawyer like my brother from another mother. Give it up for Vin Johnson one more time. We have to move into our last part, which is about JobCore. Because those children, what they're going through is just incredible. Once again, there's 130 students there. Some have already left, a few have left and went to the Mel Trotter mission. They told me that they found out Wednesday and that they have to be out by June 6th, June 13th at the latest. And they were calling me through the weekend over and over and over again. So many children that said we need to reach out to Grand Rapids to see if we can have help. I talked to one student who only had one parent. The hardest thing in life is losing a parent, especially the mother that birthed you, that was the tunnel that you came through for life. So this student's mother had passed. While in JobCore, the student's father, her father went to prison. So that house, that little apartment she had ain't there. So to sit on the phone and just hear her cry. And I said, I look into a few things. 10 minutes later, she called back. What did they say? I'm like, I'm still calling them. It's a Sunday. She called me back. Monday morning before my alarm clock went off, she called me. Can they help me? So it is a state of emergency. We're going to start off to see who wants to take this question. How will the closing of JobCore affect the 25,000 young students who are nationally a part of the job training program JobCore? All right. Let's get it up for Will.
Hello. So I stand here with a Jordan R4 JobCore shirt on. I've dedicated 16 and a half years to the JobCore Center, living in multiple states, doing multiple jobs, starting off as a residential advisor all the way up to the deputy center director. So I've seen this program on many levels. I've seen how it touched communities, how it touched children, past the numbers. We look and they say, these are the numbers, 38% graduate. But they use the numbers from post-pandemic, where the whole world was suffering. They don't tell you that before the pandemic, it was 60%. They don't tell you out of that 38%, 74 or more percent were placed in a job. They don't tell you that when you look at the numbers, we were at 38%. 2-year colleges was at 31%. Beyond the numbers. If you work the numbers, they'll work in your favor. If I control the data that I give to you, I can control the results that you receive. And if you don't go searching and looking for these things for yourself, then I control the narrative. So when we look past, let's look past the numbers, look past the money. 25,000 children are about to be displaced back into a place that has no place for them. They're coming from communities that entrusted these JobCore centers, 124 centers, that they entrusted their loved ones to come and make a better life. They say the taxpayers' money, but how much more taxpayer money is going to cost for 25,000 people to come back to the communities in which they left? When you look at how much it cost, is it worth the life of someone to be successful? I'm upset and emotional because there's no plan. Does JobCore need to be reformed? Hell yeah. Is there things that we need to fix? Hell yeah. Does the police department need to be reformed? Hell yeah. Did they fire all of them and send all of them home and start over? Hell no. Reform does not mean stop. Reform does not mean pause. Reform does not mean that you take the people who are the most vulnerable and put your damn boot on their neck. You can reform while you're moving forward. Somebody said earlier, building the road while you're walking on it. So when you ask how does it affects the crime rate. You're talking about tax money. You're taking tax money from the youth who are placed in jobs, pay taxes. They go on to college. I think that it's just a hit for poor people. And it's not black, it's not white. I've been to multiple JobCores, as I said, from New Mexico all the way down to Mississippi. There are people from all walks of life who need this program. So you reform the program. You don't dismiss the program. Every presidential candidate, when they took office, when they put that budget out, and my JobCore people know this, we get those notices about our funding, and they find a way. There is no way in hell that the budget that the president has put forth don't have $214 million in it, when we trillions of dollars in debt, to let a JobCore center run. The second part is the money is still there for them youth to be there now to make a plan, and they'd rather give them a 7-day notice like they're a landlord. There's still time and there's still money in that budget for us to continue now if you're going to change it. But instead, they decided that 25,000 youth are not important enough to find a way to make sure that they have a safe place to stay, to learn, and to grow. This is them showing you on a different level. I think the attorney said they play by the same rules in a different system. What they're doing is showing you it doesn't matter what you do, we're going to control your future. These kids are our future. If we can stop them, then they ain't going to be there to fight for what's going on later on. So JobCore, it may seem small. It may seem small, but the ripple effect that it will have, when you look at the 81% of high school students who graduate, and then you add the 38% from JobCore, I think we're doing a damn good job. Because that 38%, and I'm going to be done, Rob, but that 38% makes a difference because it could have been 0%. And even when they don't graduate, there's things called career success standards that they learn in there. There's independent living that they learn in there. There's people who have EFL games, which means that they came in reading at a 3rd grade level and they leave at a 12th grade level. They may not have graduated, but they learned something. And JobCore is not to, I'm going to end with this. JobCore is not for students to go inside and come out and get Fortune 500 company jobs. It is a step up. It's a platform. It's a launching pad. Because you know what? When they come out, they're going to get those jobs that are open and then propel themselves to be better. But if they don't get those jobs, they don't get those high school diplomas, they don't get those trades, then guess what? They can't even get the minimum jobs. You want to see crazy and chaos? Have 25,000 people with nothing. 25,000 people with nothing to lose showing up. And I wish 25,000 people, 25,000 youth for JobCore some way can get to Washington and show up 25,000 strong. Because you know what? They're the ones who are going to be voting. The ones who didn't graduate and the ones who did graduate. So we need JobCore. We need these programs. And if we're going to do reform while we still forming. Don't destroy to reform. And we won't have things like a lot of crime because they have places to go. They have things to do. They have something self-worth about themselves. And if we saying we don't care about the children, we don't care about nothing else. There's a proverb that say when two people meet, the first thing you do is say, how's the children? Because if the children okay, the community okay. If the children okay, the financial situation okay. If the children okay, then the housing is okay. If the children okay, then the education is okay. So right now, the children are not okay.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I wish we had more adults that have been in that JobCore system as staff or partners that would stand up like him to give you the inside story. You can go on Kent County All Access website. You can find my email if you're trying to connect with any of those students with any resources. We also have a staff that's about to be let go. A talented staff that has worked with these kids who are losing their jobs. So when you see the national news, the way they rolled it out was we're closing it down by June 30th. But the situation was all operations will cease. One of the students told me that they had to eat this weekend and some of the staff from the kitchen had already been let go. So they had to go in there and cook their own food. One told me they feel like they're in prison. They said it's not the fault of the staff, but the new rules that have been given to the staff would be, the new rules given to the staff were that if they left off the campus, if they came back, they wouldn't be let back in. So this went from being a place they love to be at, a place they call home, to one said, no fault of the staff, but it feels like a prison. Some who went home on weekend furloughs didn't know there was a new rule too, because the class is Monday through Friday. They can't wait till the weekend. They can go home, they can go hang out. If you leave the building for the weekend furlough, you can't come back. You can't even come back and get your stuff. It's gonna have to be sent to you. You leave the building, you can't. So, and now the students wanna tell their story, but they say the federal government has in their contract that they can't talk to the media. Well, you know, Flint and Detroit, they didn't care. They went on TV and talked anyway. You kicking us out anyway. and I can't wait to hear from our JobCore students because they called me, so I'm telling you their story. Will is telling you their story, and he's telling you with so much data that no one with a civilized mind can ignore that there should be no pause to JobCore. Grand Rapids, stand up. We have to stand up for these children. We have to stand up. Reach out to JobCore. If you're not able to get in contact through there, please hit me and I will, please get my email and I will connect you. I got a question for Vin Johnson and it comes from JobCore. Can you hand that to Mr. Vin Johnson? Okay, right after Vin. Vin Johnson, the JobCore students called me this weekend and said, could I come get some information from them? I'm a strong person because boy, this brings tears to your eyes. When a 16-year-old says, me and my mama was evicted, but she went to court, and the judge gave her 30 more days. Mr. Womack, we working on a letter. Can you get it to a judge and ask them, can they evict us? And they just told us Wednesday, we want a 30-day stay. What? I know you're not the housing lawyer, but I'm the commissioner. And I said, let me ask a lawyer that. And I'm gonna ask some local ones in Grand Rapids. What would you say if you got that from a 16, 17-year-old group of young people who have just been told Wednesday that they've got to be out by June 6th, and they want to take it to court for a 30-day stay so they can find out where they're going to go?
Well, you can't evict somebody, landlord-tenant. I'm not a landlord-tenant lawyer, but that's what we're talking about. You can't evict somebody in 6 days. That's impossible. So what I would need to see is the contract or the agreement, if you will, that was signed. But it ain't no way it's 6 days.
All right, I'm gonna go get that contract. Let's give it up for Vin Johnson. And let's give it up for these students that life experience is coming into play right now. Life experience, all the bad stuff that you go through when you're coming from broken homes, low-income homes. And now the students want to talk to a judge. And I hope that the staff support them in that. Let's give it up for those JobCore students. Phyllis has something she want to say, and then I'm going to see anybody that's on the panel has. Phyllis, you can go ahead and say what you want to say, but after that, we're going to give everybody else an opportunity to close.
So one of the things I want to make clear is so
3
people
minutes.
understand, it's not what JobCore did not do. And I think what we need to understand too is I don't know who voted, who did not vote, but we should know who and what we voted for. And so when you look at all the things that are happening, I don't know if we thought that some of the things that were said, that we really thought they would happen. Well, guess what? It happened. But there's so many things in our community that can be our responsibility as well. Count our churches. The world does not have to be one way. It's too many of us that have children in this community. And I am not only am I an employer, I'm a partner with JobCore. So when someone says go home, so as the hotels today, and I think the attorney and I can agree, if you've been in there permanently for a while, you are a resident. You cannot be evicted that way. So one of the things I've been asking for, the reason I've been asking for the data is because you have to look at other ways to navigate to get where you want. And sometimes in the world that you live, we talked about when people don't call us back and politicians don't listen to us. That's our fault. Because when people come to your house and ask you to vote, you never ask why, what you're gonna do for me. We just freely give it away. So now we are shocked. The world has been shocked. 25,000 students, are you kidding me? Look at the adults. Look at people that can't find anywhere to live now. They can't find a job. This is nothing new. So yes, stand up, not just Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Detroit. You have to have one voice. And if you're all speaking Spanish and language in 5 and 6 different languages, you never get nothing done. Know why? Because if you think it should be yellow and you think it's blue, that gives somebody a way out. So JobCore, tomorrow we're gonna come to see you because there are things we can do. And all I ask is this, that when we step out there, and I know you're there, don't let nobody run us over because you don't stand there and fight back. Because there are things that those students can do. So NAACP, I am a member and a president. We are working with you as well. And I'm sure that this community has to understand you do have rights.
Let's give it up for Phyllis Loudermill. I welcomed her to the panel yesterday because she has some resources that definitely can help JobCore. And when I got to talking to her in Muskegon, she knew the same people at JobCore, and she had been talking to them. So I want to give you the high five and thank you for taking that trip down to Grand Rapids to help us on this. Before we take some public comment from the audience, will you have 2 minutes to say what you want to say? Because you might have something to say that can help us and open our minds to something we're missing. You are just as part of this panel as everybody else. I do want to thank U.S. House Representative Hillary Skolden, who has wrote up a package to ask for JobCore to stay open, and we hope that while she's working on that she's successful. Is there any public comment related to community police relations or JobCore? Come on down, 2 minutes. Who's gonna be my timekeeper up here?
Yo, hey, this is D. Jones. Y'all know who I am, passionate advocate. Something I didn't hear y'all say is these politicians, these billionaires, the DeVosses, Van Andels, bought the seat. They own our Kent County prosecutor. They are the reason we didn't get justice. It is the billionaires that control the infrastructure. It's the Republicans that's been controlling the Kent County. We need to get these Republicans out of office. We need to build economic power, and we need to get these Republicans out of the county. It's the DeVosses, it's the Van Andels, it's the Sekias. Since 2016, they've been the biggest donors to Christopher Becker's campaign. Nobody's looking at the finances. You gotta follow the finances with everything, because that's where the cash relies. The biggest donor to our Kent County prosecutor, who's also a Republican, is going to side with those people. I swear, this man has been told. There's no other logistics that I can think of besides this man being told by the billionaires that run the county since their company, I believe Amway was started in 1959, since the integration of their company. They've been controlling the infrastructure, and we need to stand up to the billionaires. It's not the police, it's the billionaires. It's the billionaires. It's the billionaires. We need to boycott the DeVosses, call them out, stop being scared. Stop being scared of these billionaires. Stop being scared of these billionaires, because they're the ones that's the reason why we're struggling. They're the reason why we keep fighting. I don't care if y'all don't like what I'm saying, because I'm the one that's bold enough to say it. Thank you.
First of all, thank y'all for having this panel. Really appreciate y'all. I know a lot of people on this panel and stuff like that, and I just want to let y'all know I respect y'all so much for keep on being consistent and doing the struggle that a lot of people are not going to do, you know? So thank you. Give it up for them. As for, this is the message for like the protesters that be out there for racial injustice. Hopefully y'all can work on a plan to have a subdivision that's within the Southeast community, because it's always downtown and we need to have it in the Southeast community. They need to know that we're not approving not only with the police violence that's happening, but the black on black violence that's happening in our community as well. We're not speaking love into these kids. They don't understand. They don't have the bandwidth to have options in their head to not be emotional. So we got to teach them that we love them, you know. So if y'all have some subdivision that y'all could bring to the community, we'll really appreciate that. But thank you for your hard work, for real. So give it up to them too. No doubt. I just want to throw ideas out. I'm the idea guy. You know what I'm saying? So as for JobCore, I'm very angry about that situation, because I know a lot of people that was working with JobCore for many years. I got some nephews that's up in JobCore. The one graduated finally, and I don't know what happened to the next one. Rob, I don't know if it's something that you can do when you talk to the city and talk to all these constructions that's happening downtown due to the fact that these kids are developing skills, if they could offer them jobs. You know what I mean? Because they got the amphitheater, they got the soccer stadium that's still working on, they got potholes that they never fix, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that they could do. You know what I mean? Building houses, you know what I'm saying, on a regular basis. These kids are equipped and ready. And if it's possibly, you know what I mean, if you could talk to the people about that, you know, definitely, you know? Last thing, I appreciate that you had the rules and regulation, the code of ethics. Is this something that could talk to the art panel, the art council, or the city, or having police code of ethics out throughout the city so people could read to it or QR code it at any time? And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Come on up, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, I'm gonna bring you up, Mr. School Board. All right. I want to thank him because not only has been a long-time activist before George Floyd, through George Floyd for human rights, he's also been elected to our Grand Rapids School Board, and he's one that really holds it down for the people.
Thank you. So I like to stay behind the scenes in a lot of this work. So y'all might have seen me. I'm not the one that's in front chanting. I'm back in the back making sure that folks are safe. I'm in the back making sure folks feel like their voice is heard. But I just had to come up here and say a few things. So one, I'm actually going to step back down here over here. But something I haven't heard of that is work that we've done before is the Community-Owned Safety Coalition tried to reduce the funding for the police department. So it is supposed to be at minimum 32%. Currently, it's at 38% of the discretionary budget of the city, so we got to do something about that. And I know that folks have already tried, but we got to keep trying. And if we fail, we try again and try again. Secondly, is y'all gotta talk to your elected officials. Republican Party, Democratic Party, I don't care. I know we got some Democratic folks in here, and they do the same BS that the Republican Party does. They don't stand with the people. And I know that when I ran for school board as a defund the GRPD activist, folks, you know, went and told folks, hey, don't vote for Jose Rodriguez because he don't support the police. I don't support the police. Y'all can put it on record. Y'all can put it on the news. I don't care. So 1 year ago when we were protesting the 2-year anniversary of Patrick Lyoya's murder, you know, we had folks out there. There was only about 20, 25 of us, and they threw charges at me. They threw charges at Erikai. They threw charges at anybody that they could, and that's how they try to keep folks down. So it don't matter if you're an elected official. It don't matter if you're rich, poor. If you speak out against them, they're gonna come after you. So we gotta keep that straight. So we gotta realize that the police does not work for us. They work for people with capital. They work for powerful people, and they don't work for the working class. So let's keep that straight, and we gotta work to defund the police. And then finally, I mean, talk to your city commissioners, folks. It's Marshall Kilgore, Kelsey Perdue, Lisa Knight, Drew Robbins, Alicia Marie Belchak. Who's the last one? Who? Oh, I already said Lisa Knight. LeGrand. I don't even know if I missed someone. Yasasi, Melinda Yasasi. Talk to all those folks. Their info is on the website. They can have them sit down with you and talk to them about why are you not doing more to defund the police? And when we say defund the police, we don't say just take that money away and throw it away. We mean take that money and put it into community, put it into resources that are proactive so folks aren't being dealt with when they're already in jail. Put it into JobCore, right? So they got $70 million. Put some of that money into JobCore since Trump says we don't need JobCore anymore.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
When we got the verdict that they weren't gonna, it was a mistrial, I sat in my car and I thought I was gonna throw up, thought I was gonna vomit. I really sat there crying hysterically. My sister, who works in the downtown, she called me because she knows exactly that I was gonna be emotional about what was going on. I have a daughter that she's 9. She's biracial, so she's black, and she has autism. And my struggle is she already has trouble with, out the outside world. How is this future gonna look for her safety, being a black woman later with a disability? Is she gonna be able to follow a police command? Is she gonna be able to, be okay, as far as that goes? Because just like somebody that is from another country that can't understand what the police is saying or whatever, that's kind of a similar thing with a kid with autism has going on. They don't like to be touched. They don't like to be, having their autonomy or their authority taken away. That's how kids with autism feel. Their world is really different, and I just want this society and this community to get together to fight for everyone's rights, especially people with disabilities, minorities, black, white, different, doesn't matter. We have to stand together against these police that think they have the right to go out and run your kid down, or because they feel like it's okay to do that. Now that they've hung the jury and said it's okay, now what do we do to fight against that? So we all, these town meetings are gonna help, but we all gotta get together and do something to help it change.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of saying names. And I'm tired of this system. I'm tired of taking the system route to fix the system. It's all just a big tangled mess. I think it's time we step outside the system. I know that's scary for some people, but the system's working exactly the way it's supposed to. Like Allie said, we're not surprised that these were the outcomes. We're devastated, but we're not surprised, because the system that killed Patrick, that killed Riley, that killed Samuel is not gonna give them justice. Justice would be them never being killed in the first place, right? Justice would be a system that will never take anybody's life away again in this manner. So how are we gonna get that done? We gotta get to the root of the issue, and that is the system of policing and prisons in this country, right? It's the fact that we have police in general, that they have the power to be judge, jury, and executioner. So what can we do instead of police? We can hold each other accountable. Somebody said, you find out the state of your community by finding out the state of your children. Get to know your neighbor. Get to make sure that your neighbor's children are okay. Solve your problems with the people that you love. Get practice at conflict resolution. Have practice at solving problems so we don't have to call the police. Get practice at taking care of each other so we don't have to call the police in these kinds of emergencies. People call the police for everything. Especially white people. White people call the police for everything. You get scared. It's the first thing you learn. You get a little bit scared, you call the police. What if we figured out how to solve our own problems or solve problems with each other? So we don't have to call upon these violence workers, because that is who they are. You call the police and you bring the police into the situation, you have no idea how they're going to react. You have no idea what they're going to do, and most likely there's going to be some element of violence. You know what I see with police? It's either they do nothing, they're ineffective, or they're violent. Neither of those you want. No amount of training can take out if you have the instinct in you that you are willing to murder somebody the way that these 3 people were murdered, there There's no amount of training that can take that out of you. Nothing. And the police, they're all sitting there gassing each other up with this violence. It's a culture of violence. It's a culture of them being told that the outside world is out to get them. They come out to this community, they don't see this come out to help us. They see and envision themselves at war. They envision themselves as soldiers at war with only their buddies to protect them. If you go out into the community and do that, are you going to go out there to help somebody? No, you're going to be out there, you're going to be jumping, you're going to use your gun. There is no amount of training to get rid of that. So we really need to ask ourselves, what is the root of the problem here? We can talk all day, and I thank these lawyers, because, I don't know if I could go to school for that long. I thank these lawyers for putting in that effort, and that's hard work. But we gotta start below here too. We gotta start in our community. We gotta make connections with each other. Learn how to talk with each other. Learn how to have conflict resolution. Because we don't need police. I think we'll find out we do not need the police.
Hi, I'm Angie Kortenhoven, and I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I'm also a Grand Rapids resident, and I am a mother of 3 sons. And I know the fear that we all experience over the lifetime. My sons are young adults now, but all through those years, I recognize the reality that this violent, racist system has so much power to determine my life and to determine my children's lives. And I just really want to stand here as just to show, or just to give respect and honor to these families. And I'm sorry. I feel the pain of being a community member who feels powerless to have prevented these kinds of things, and who feels like there's no way to prevent them, like someone asked earlier. Like, how can we prevent this from happening again? We may not be able to, but we can organize. And that is one thing that I always think of is Malcolm X's statement. We are not outnumbered. We are not outnumbered. We are out-organized. And I hear people saying, and even my friend, my sister here who was just speaking, we have to take care of each other. We need to, do these things, be able to de-escalate things, and so on and so on. But you know what? The only reason I'm here is because Julian Richardson texted me. I didn't know this was happening. We need organization. And so that's the work that we can do. No matter where we are in our life, we recognize that it's not the Democrats gonna save us. It's not the Republicans gonna save us. We're gonna have to save ourselves and each other. So give me your number.
Thank you. Thank you. How many more people do we have left? Yes. 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 And we're going to keep everybody to the 2 minutes because we are over our time, but we definitely got to hear from the public. So let's do our 2 minutes and apiece, and let's go.
My name is Christopher Smith, and JobCore came in my life in like 2008. I graduated from there for being a brick masonry, and I came here to Grand Rapids like in, say, like 11, 12 years ago. And I remember working at a factory, and I seen the now hiring sign on there. And I was like, let me go try it. So I went in there, and I got a job as an RA. So when I got the job as an RA, I was like, I remember being these students, like, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't graduate to be a brick mason. I went back to be an RA to help out the students and let them know that this program helped my life when I was young. And it can help you, because now I'm back working with y'all. So I ain't here to bash anybody. I'm just saying it helped me and came along. I didn't go off to be a brick mason, but I ended up helping a lot of students and wiping their tears. So just help them out. That's all I really want.
Now, I want to give it up for Chris Smith because he's worked at JobCore, he's helped these students, he's been through the JobCore, he come back, he helped people, and when I told him, man, let me tell you, he's taking great risks to do what he do, but that's what you have to do for change. Give it up for this young man. All right, we will hear from Kai now.
So I wish that more of the community was here at this point to speak to, and I wish that the community would have had like a little bit more of a voice and not had been held off until 9 p.m. when, you know, everybody's gone. Because this should have been an open discussion, in my opinion, like a back and forth conversation, because we've had a lot of this talking at, and I'm sick of it. We've done a lot of talking to and a lot of talking at. I've pleaded, I'm facing wild charges left and right from these officers. I've reached out to the NAACP, I've reached out to the ACLU, I've reached out to all these people because my civil rights are being trampled on because I'm an activist, right? I've done these things, and I've said what y'all say a million times over and over and over. And still y'all do nothing. So don't get up here and panel talk me unless you're gonna get behind me. Don't sit here and tell me to get my ass out here and vote and do this, talk to the commissioner. I've talked to my commissioners. I've talked to these people, and it falls upon deaf ears because we live in a system that is built around capitalism and patriarchy, and we are gonna get nowhere within that system. We're not going to receive justice. We're not going to receive equality. We're not going to receive accountability. Most people don't even know what accountability is. And I'm getting really sick of it. The momentum here is gone because we had all these people with all this power just looking over here like ain't shit was happening in fucking Grand Rapids. Like, people ain't just dying left and right, and now these activists are getting charges left and right, taking us off the streets, making people cower in their homes. But where were y'all? Like, where were y'all when we was asking for the help? I'm here stuck with a fucking public defender. And I'm facing now my 3rd felony charge with a habitual. That's up to 11 years in prison because my bullhorn is supposedly responsible for busting the eardrum of an officer. I've spent more time in jail than Christopher Scher has. I just did 10 days over his trial. This is beyond anything y'all talking up there. Anything y'all talking up there. I'm living it. I've begged for it. I'm done begging for it. And I guess it's just the realities of the situation. But we've said it, and we've said it time and time again. We can only make this doable in numbers. We can only do this with numbers. If we can't get our shit together, if we can't come together as a people, if we can't get what we're fighting for together, if we can't take ego out of this, if we can't take capitalism out of this, I don't want to work with these nonprofits that are bound by these rules in which the grants are given and money is received, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. So it's community or it's nothing. You stand up with your money. Y'all, the president of the NAACP just said, oh, well, we can give out, well, let's fund it. Where have you been? Patrick's been gone for 3 years now. Where have you been? Because I've been here. I've sent emails. I've been here. I've been doing the work. Every time I step outside, I get felony charges from these officers. I just stood in court where they told me that they told the judge that they needed to protect the police from me, and I've never laid a hand on an officer. So I'm not understanding what y'all not understanding about how we need to operate here. We need money. We need support. We are vulnerable here.
Accountability or nothing.
Thank you.
All
All right, y'all, I'm really pregnant, so I'm gonna do this real fast, but this is the first time that I'm actually speaking out about our family and what happened to us. My pregnancies have gotten in the way, or I would have been out there protesting, but I just couldn't. So, look, you was there for me, and I appreciate it because I spent my whole life after I left Grand Rapids to get back here. I was gone for 15 years, and I really wanted to come home because my family was here. So I dragged my husband here, he in the back, dragged my husband here, we had kids, we out to dinner in 2023. Some white man accuses us of hitting a bike. The police come, we get arrested because of failure to or resisting arrest, because I wasn't gonna let them take my husband. That's my man, that's my family, that's the head of our household. You are not gonna take him for something that he did not do. So they arrested both of us in front of our 3 kids. We are both felons. We both got college degrees. We're both felons. And I wanted to, talk about the panel, and what she just said really stood out to me. I've been to the NAACP. I've been to all these organizations, and NAACP did help, but it wasn't enough. Like, we need more, because now we can't get jobs. What we supposed to do? And when we went to testify in court, I'm not gonna argue with you about you being wrong and me being right. It's on the videotape. Nothing was hit, there was no evidence, no 911 call. So if you're gonna criminalize me, then, I'm going to fight a different way. And that's what I wanted to talk about, fighting a different way. All the allies in the room, the people that don't look like us, that are part of these companies and these churches that say, hey, if they have felonies, don't hire them. Or if they have felonies, they can't work with our youth. Like, y'all gotta be our voices for the people who aren't felons. Like, y'all gotta be the one to change the policy, even if you're not over the company. So I really wanted to talk about policy changes. Like, it ain't enough to get up here. Like she said, all these people are talking about what has happened. We already know what's happened. It's been happening since the 50s and 60s. What are we gonna do about it? And who's gonna stand up to make it right? And I think that now it's the felons. That's who I wanna help. I wanna help the people who are now and have been labeled felons, like me and my husband, for standing up for our rights, abiding by what is a part of the GRPD policy. There are policies that says that what we did were right, but nobody's gonna talk about that. And we need people to start talking about that part of it.
30
the
seconds.
Policies we are right about. So just, with a black judge and a black juror in the courtroom, we were convicted. It doesn't matter, the facts don't matter. What matters is what GRPD says about what you did. And so for anybody that's looking for support as a felon, that's what we're gonna start working on, because that's how they're labeling all of us. Whether we're black, white, purple, or red, whether we look professional or we got on a hoodie, that's what they think about us.
Thank you.
And that's what we're doing.
First of all, I want to thank you for having this forum and allowing people to share what they have on their hearts. I was at a hands-off rally on April 5th, and it was packed. Rosa Parks Circle was just packed. And I was disappointed. I've heard the word boycott tonight several times. But when I was at this rally, I could count on one hand how many of us was there. Yes, that affected me, because once we started marching, and this is what really got to me. Once we started marching, one of the security officers came up to me and asked me, did I feel secure? I didn't understand it at the time, but now I realize ICE is out there. I stuck out like a sore thumb because of the color of my skin. ICE is out there. So we really got a bigger fight on our hands than what we even know about. And we need to not just, this is what inspired me to get up here, what the lady was saying earlier about not just saying something, but doing something. We have got to start putting our words into action. I know I can say more, but I know we cut on time. But ICE is out there, and they're not just looking for, certain people. They are looking for you. And that's what we are facing with. And I feel bad for all of the ones, not just the 3 people here that was affected, but there's so many of them out there that we don't even know about or we don't even hear about. So my heart goes out to all of you all and all the ones who are out there, but we are in more serious trouble than what we know.
Good evening, community. I just wanted to stand up on behalf of Covenant High School. We have a great partnership with JobCore. A lot of their students come to our school to receive their high school diploma. We got the news Friday from a student, actually, who called and said, crying, and said they didn't have anywhere to go. And they're this close to graduation, which our graduation is gonna be held on June 17th. So imagine you working your way through a program, a trade, as a lot of people stood up and said that they were displaced from these communities, but they come to get a better life. So we scrambling, trying to find somewhere for our recent graduates to go. And a particular student said, well, she is going to say the graduation speech at graduation, but she have to leave center, and she wouldn't have a way back here for June 17. Heartbreaking, right? And then other students who go to our school, and we're scrambling to trying to find them so they can receive their high school diploma. Heartbreaking. We need JobCore. And I'm just a round-the-way girl from Grand Rapids, Southeast Grand Rapids. 49507 in particular is my passion. That's where my heart is at. And I came back to give back to our students and to give back. And so just on behalf of Covenant JobCore, we stand with y'all. We are with y'all. Whatever we can do to keep those students so they can receive the high school diploma that they worked so hard to get, we stand with y'all. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
How many more do we have? 2 more? Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna get comfortable. It's a lot to grasp. I heard a lot tonight. So I'm gonna start off with JobCore. I didn't attend JobCore, but back in 2000, let's say 10 or 11, I did Capital League through JobCore, and that taught me a lot of discipline. And shout out to Mike Brown, Remo Brown. But it impacted my life going through JobCore, Capital League through JobCore. But to piggyback on the young man that brought forward of how they separated all the cases, the division. Now, I heard it again once up here when he said, oh, we're going to FOIA all the Christopher Shores, all his complaints. That's right there is singularizing it as well. Why can't we get a FOIA request of all the complaints on GRPD of excessive force? Because it's not just one officer, it's GRPD. How can we get mental evaluation on the policy? They train for 8 weeks and get a gun and badge to them and out in the street. How can we get mental evaluation on the policy?
That's right.
Because back when we had the drone meeting, the gun safety meeting at Baxter, Winchell admitted that he felt like they need mental evaluations, which they do. Right, and it's just so much you can go around. I ain't got brain fart. But we tired of crying the same old cries every commissioner meeting, every time, oh, speak up, speak up. Eternal Pharisees, everything. All the body cams, all the dash cams. I filed a complaint with NCAA on Christopher Shores a few years before he killed Patrick. Internal Affairs, they didn't see no error. Then he killed someone 2 years later. That was his behavior. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't fear. That was his misconduct behavior that he had in him. I don't know, there's so much to go over. Why can't we conduct this type of meeting in Lansing, in front of Dana's office, in front of that building? Why can't we be in Lansing? It's like this last minute afterwards, it's been 3 years. He's out on bond for 3 years. That courthouse should have been flooded. We should have meet and greets right when he got killed, not after the trial was a mistrial. We had Ben Crumpton show up to that court empty, just them. Why didn't y'all have groups of people with y'all when y'all came to court? It shouldn't be no way that that courthouse was not flooded from toward the point where his people couldn't get in because we flooded that courthouse, even outside. But they showed up to that courthouse by themselves when this man was out on bond for 3 years straight. We didn't have no churches. What major churches spoke up? What pastors came out and spoke up? No, but they're the community. We had to, like the man said, we had to follow that paper trail, that money. There's so much black funding out here, but if they pushing us out, where's it going? Where's our funding going? There's so much black funding, NCAA, legal aid, all them get funding for us, but when it come to represent us, they don't have no resources. Limited, we don't got it. They take my case, but we can't represent you due to limited resources. Now why you have me fill out the application? So you can send it to the government and get funding for it? Here you go to our DHS office, all you see is foreigners. Where's all our where does all our money going? Where's all our COVID funding? Where is that going? Where did it go? Because it didn't go to us.
Thank you, thank you.
Follow that money trail.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
You want me to say what you can say? Okay, well, I've been asked to say, to sort of echo what was said before, which is a lot of the folks on the panel up here today, their hearts were with us, but maybe they didn't show. You know, sometimes we quote Boys in the Hood, either they didn't show or didn't care. And I believe they cared, but the families here know what faces were there for them. You know, the families here know who reached out to them, the families here who showed up for them. And, you know, it might be sometimes if you get paid to do good, you think you're doing enough. But we got to go above and beyond for these families. What else would you add?
Because NAACP was not there. Now they at that courtroom. They should have been there. It shouldn't took after the fact, and then you get up on the stage and say all this great work. I went there every day. They wasn't around at all. They were sitting in their offices giving a statement later. The church gave a statement later, but they didn't give it when they should have been there. They should have been there behind the family 100%. And then they get here and start saying, oh, by the way, we care. I don't think so, because if you did, you would have been there with that family. That's all I got to say. With the family, with the protesters? Everybody, yes, because they should have been there backing them up 100%. Because they are the people, they are the voice, and they didn't produce. Not at all, and that's what they should have been talking about. All this other stuff.
I'll just add this, or we know these things. God is on our side, and if you don't believe in God, then love is on our side. That quote, "We build the road by walking on it," I got that from Jeff Smith, local activist who got it from sort of Mexican revolutionaries. We don't know, we can't sit here right now and see the whole plan of what we're gonna do and need to do in this community. We're gonna do it one day at a time. We're gonna find out when we get there what needs to be done. I wanted to say the civil rights movement never stopped. You know, we don't know exactly what to do, but we do know we need to keep our eyes on the prize. We know that the glory of God shines from this movement. We are fighting with the souls of black folk already whole and free. I'll tell you what I said to Peter Lyoya, Patrick said. I said, in the kingdom of God, we have already won, and Patrick is with the King of Kings. Patrick, Samuel, Riley, Hank, they were all regular people. Now they are heroes. They have given their lives, and we will get justice in their names. Years ago, there's footage of Erikai saying, you know, news footage saying, show us you have us, surround us. And that's been my kind of guiding call in my work in the community is let the family affected know that you're there for them. And you just show up. Like, I don't do nothing special. I just show up, and I give you a hug. It's worth it. So I would say this, when you spend time with the families, your heart will become the heart you need to do what needs to be done. And I want to say, we don't know exactly what we have to do, but we have to come together. Coming together is the only thing that's ever going to work. On that, Black Lives Matter, justice for all stolen lives. Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is Lamar Forche, and I want to speak to the, like she said earlier, the culture of violence with the GRPD. I have experienced that. Last year, I was assaulted. I was basically beaten by the GRPD, and it was on the 2-year anniversary of them killing Patrick. And I for since then, you know, I went through trial, and I had this, crazy enough, I had the same judge as Christopher Sher, and she not right. That judge is not right. I thought because I had a black judge that, you know, I was gonna have some type of justice. I was gonna have this judge that saw all these white police officers beating on me for nothing. Every charge was dismissed. Even the bogus warrant was dismissed. And I thought that, you know, this black woman that saw me being beaten would be like, hold on, this not right. This not right. But there's no accountability. No accountability nowhere. For over a year, I've been going around passing out these flash drives with all the body cam footage on it. Nobody has offered to represent me. I've been reaching out. I reached out to the NAACP, just like you said, nothing. No, we don't have any resources. I reached out to so many different law firms, showing them this body cam footage, and all charges was dismissed, and I still haven't had any accountability. The police department haven't reached out to me. They haven't given my property back. I got so many. I lost my job because of this. You know, even though I got my job back just recently, you know, the stuff that I went through, I shouldn't have had to go through that. And there is no accountability. It don't matter. I feel stuff like this when we come together, but this not gonna be enough. This not gonna be enough. They gonna see us doing this, and they ain't even bother to come. I ain't seen not one police officer up in here. They don't care about us. They do not care about us. Like I really want accountability, and I feel like, yeah, I've been giving these flash drives. I wanted to give one to one of these lawyers up in here, but I can make another one though. But I feel like the accountability should come in my case. You know, a lot of people that had cases and went up against the GRPD, but unfortunately everybody lost. I didn't lose. I won. I beat them. All charges dismissed, but I still haven't had any civil justice. No, I'm not going back to prison. You know, I'm not going back. But it's lawyers in here. It's lawyers up here that I done reached out to that done told me no. Ben Crump told me no. Ben Johnson told me no. NAACP told me no. All these big people, because I didn't die. Because I didn't die. That's why I'm not being represented. Had I would have died, my wife would have been up here. My daughter, who had to watch me get beat, would have been up here. But because I didn't die and I lived and I'm out here, didn't nobody even believe me when this started. All this happened over unpaid medical bills. They say, even though I know that I was racially profiled and followed home and beaten, they charged me with a CCW for a fishing knife, which was dismissed. They charged me with assaulting them, even though they assaulted me, which was dismissed. The warrant that they said for, it was a bench warrant for unpaid medical bills, even that was dismissed. Like, no accountability. I have had nobody reach out to me, and I feel like they have no leg to stand on. Not one leg to stand on. All I need is a law firm to sue them. And they can't do nothing. Nothing. They had no evidence. No type of, like, they had no type of case. They even violated my due process rights, because everybody know from the day that you arrested, they have 6 months to give you a trial by jury. It took them 8 months, and through that 8 months, my public defender tried to get me to take a plea throughout the whole 8 months. Even after the judge said, well, we're not taking any pleas after this, he's still trying to get me to take a plea when I know I'm not guilty. And I went that whole way, and in December, I was found not guilty on all charges. But since then, I've had no justice, no accountability. These people don't care. They don't care about us. Or they just hope it blow over. They just hope that I hope don't nobody represent him in time before time run out. I really need justice. Like I really need justice. I've reached out. Womack, Womack a good person, but he's had this body cam footage, and he haven't even reached out to me. Like nobody. OPA, the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability, they've had this body cam footage because I gave it to them. Nobody has reached out to me. Nobody has done nothing. I've been going through this by myself with my wife and my kids, and ain't nobody reached out to me. I be sitting here, justice for this, justice for that. Who gonna say justice for me? Who gonna say justice for Lamar? Man, I get so angry. Like I've been diagnosed with PTSD. I just got pulled over. I've been over the past year. I don't know nobody who has been pulled over as much as me. I'm being targeted. I just got pulled over the day before yesterday. The day before yesterday, I know they know who I am. I know they know who I am, and they targeted me. And there's nothing that I can do about it. I reached out to every single body that I could. I even went out of state. Bernstein, so many different like law firms told me no. Oh, we're not saying that you don't have a case. They just don't want to try the case. They just don't want to do the work. They just don't want to go through it. I'm not rich. I can't go out there and just be like, oh, I need a lawyer. Can you represent me? No, they have to want to represent me. But if I don't have nobody that wants to represent me, then I'm just not gonna get no justice. We gonna say justice for Patrick, but it's not gonna be no justice for Patrick. It's not gonna be no justice for Patrick. It's not gonna be no justice for Samuel. It's not gonna be none of that. But it can be justice for me because they can be held accountable. I'm still here, and I'm going after them, but I have nobody going after them with me. I'm doing it all by myself, and they just looking at me like, well, I just hope time run out, and all I can do is just keep coming out and pleading, just like I did up in court. I'm pleading with my lawyer to help me. Like I know I was being real.
30 seconds.
It ain't never been not one single case where you done went to trial and your public defender says, my laptop messed up. How is the only evidence used in my case was the prosecutor's evidence? That don't make no sense. Like it has to be some. Like I feel like this is good, but we need more. Like it has to be more.
Thank you, Lamar. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you. And we especially want to thank the family for participating tonight. Oh, your daughter want to close us out? Samuel's sister, family will close us out. If you can close us out in 2 minutes, because they got a lot of cleaning up in electronics to put up. We're past our time.
So I am Anastasia, Samuel's older sister, and I get that, you know, we're still saying justice for Samuel. It's always going to be justice for Samuel, but we also need everybody to continue doing it. Like he was saying, at the end of the day, it's not over. He's still here, but Samuel's not. Patrick is not. But still, it does not stop with just y'all saying it and then nothing's happening. Like, we still all have to stay together. Not be out here fighting each other, because that's not working. They're looking at us like, oh, well, whatever. And why do y'all think that they want to come help us if everybody's still going with each other? No, y'all need to stick together and not fight each other. Y'all can't say justice if y'all not even trying to get justice and peace for yourself. At the end of the day, like, and we need that. I feel like we need to keep going and fighting for them because they're not here to fight for themselves. That means it takes all of us as one to do it. Not everybody doing it separately. We all need to stand together and do it and say justice for these people. They need that. It don't stop here. We need some more meetings. We need some more everybody to get together and going to churches, going everywhere y'all need to go and keep saying their name. Justice for Samuel, justice for Patrick. We need that. It don't stop right here. We need another meeting, something else, because it's not working. They clearly don't care about us. Yes. Go there. Go down there. Go somewhere that y'all know that all these people is at. That takes everybody. And I know at the end of the day, they say this happens, but Jehovah works on his time. He works on his time. This is not the end of this. He's going to keep going. Jehovah is here for us. He's going to keep going. And it's just not the end of it. And I don't believe that this is the end. We got to keep praying. We got to keep working together.
Thank you, thank you. Let's give it up for Samuel Sterling's sister and her message of unity. We have to unify behind these families. The next state of emergency meeting will be announced soon. We didn't get a chance to talk about some of the developments. We had to skip that portion, but Michigan State Civil Rights Department has been contacted for some forums and for them to also join our PAC in looking at the policies and working on some things. So there's a lot more that's done that's not just done on this stage, but we want to bring the public into some of the brain circles that has been working together to continue this. And hopefully at those forums, we'll be able to give out some more information. Thank you.